No.
I gotta get you.
Remix. 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 Remix.
Hi guys.
What's up? Morning.
What it do, nigga? It's a great day.
Sure is.
Geechee, what are you drinking?
Some chicory root, cacao, moringa, little mix,
That's what people do when they get in relationships.
possibly.
They start picking random herbs and shit.
Or you just do it because you do it.
Brother,
but
I have
like,
no idea how that tastes. I know those
Is it
ingredients,
something?
but I can't imagine them.
So chicory root is very similar to coffee.
Okay.
I mean, obviously cacao is like, so it's like hot chocolate, but it has moringa in it and chicory.
Interesting. So how have y'all's Black August been going?
Great question. You
Mhm.
want to start?
I don't know. I probably like sounding very similar to Jarrett last time, but it haven't felt like any other special month. Like there haven't any things that I do more of that I haven't been already doing for quite some time.
For a while.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, my bad. For folks who are new, this is the Remix Morning Show. Amber, Geechee, Lorik, the undefeated chat, as Jared would say. I really miss Jared. Anyways, yeah, it's a great day. Friday, I got paid early, which is great because I just spent a whole bunch of money on my car yesterday. I hate being a girl, and I think that I need to add another nigga to my roster to pay for my car bills because I am upset.
You got to find somebody who got enough to pay for their own car bills and break some extra off.
It wasn't that expensive. It was just expensive to me because I don't like to spend money. But my tire pressure sensor went out in one of my tires, and it was like almost $200. And I was like, the fuck? Why does this cost so much money?
Have they hit y'all with the diagnostic fee thing yet? Like when you go to a dealership?
Yeah, it was $48. The diagnostic fee was $48. And he said that there's a 30-day warranty on it. So if something else pops up, like if another light turns on or the tire pressure light comes back on, I can just bring it back up there and then they'll fix it. But
that's lucky. Down here, the diagnostics are like $225. It's like hostage.
What?
Yeah, they take your car hostage and basically like you pay $225 to find out what's wrong, no matter what. And then if we have to fix something, that $225 goes toward that. If not, we just get to keep that shit. And that's
and that's like at a regular place or like at a Firestone?
Oh no, that's like if I go to the dealership.
Oh no, I didn't take it to the dealership. Okay, so let me tell my story. Actually, I did take it to the dealership. So when the light came on, it was like flashing and shit. The tire pressure light. I'm like, why is it flashing? You know, that seemed like it's serious. So I called them, and this girl answered, and I was like, hey, just wanted to check to see if I can bring my car up there because I've always done walk-ins. I've never scheduled an appointment. And she was like, yeah, but you trying to bring it today because we close at 6. She was real rude too, and I hate when Black people be rude because I'm a customer survey filling out motherfucker. So I'm gonna fill out the customer service survey because you might have to be rude to me. So now I was asking questions like, okay, if I bring it up there, can they just diagnose it right then? Do I have to pay a fee? Because I've never actually paid anything. My tires have warranties. So when I take them up there, they just switch out the tire. I don't have to do anything else. And she was like, yeah, are you trying to come today? Because we close at 6 and so you have to come on. And I was like, alrighty. You're being a little aggressive. So the next day I go up there and the guy was like, oh, if it's a specific car issue, you have to schedule an appointment because it's a specific issue, and they only have one Mitsubishi Tech at the dealership because they got like 3 different types of cars. There's like Honda, Mitsubishi, and something else. And I was like, okay, cool. He said, yeah, I'm gonna call you and schedule an appointment. He doesn't call me later that day, and then the next day he calls me. He was like, yeah, so I got you down for September 23rd. I said, it's August 28th. I don't know what are you saying? He was like, yeah, we only got one tick. I said, all right, I'm gonna take it to Firestone. I ain't got time for your bullshit. Because the tire pressure light being on and blinking is like giving me anxiety because I know the tires aren't low because I checked them with my little tire compressor thing. But then I was like, well, if I start driving, they might get low and I wouldn't know because the fucking light won't turn off. So I got them to fix it, but I had to pay almost $300 and I was sad about it.
So because there's a question about your statement, hate being a girl, I prompt to ask the question, would you and have you changed a tire by yourself on the side of the road because your tire went flat? Have you ever did that, or you feel comfortable doing it?
No, that's only actually happened to me one time, and it was not my fault. I actually took it to the dealership to get a new tire, and the tire they put on my car was defected. And I was driving down the road, like in Atlanta, like going to Atlanta. I was like near Birmingham, and I made it to a gas station, and then the people came and towed my car. So I've never changed it. I probably could change the tire if I was in desperate like need, like if there was something really going on, but I'm actually not sure if there's a jack in my car. I know that there's like an emergency kit thing, and I'm not sure if the jack thing is in there, but I know that there's a spare tire in there. But the jack might be in there under the spare tire, and I just can't see it.
Yeah,
I don't
it
know.
should be. It should be.
I've never changed it, so and actually to me it has nothing to do with me being a girl, but more so that I don't want to do it.
Right.
Because I do stuff all the time. I built some shelves the other day in my bathroom and drilled them into the wall. It was so much fun. I built this little jewelry stand thing yesterday. I built like furniture in my house. I put together a bed frame. I be doing somewhat Bob the Buildery type of stuff. I just didn't want to do that.
Gotcha.
And I feel like I can choose which things I want to do, and I don't want to do that. But I did call my daddy and tell him to send me $200.
Good that you can have that. I was gonna say, Geechee, when did you get taught, or who taught you? I think about organizing some of the community things we like to do, like rites of passage, and they're amazing, but a lot of times they're gendered. So boys will get the car kit, like with the jumper cables and all of that stuff, and then girls that will get some other shit essentially. But at the end of the day, like
I didn't know rites of passage were gendered, like Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts.
Yeah, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts would be one example.
That's why I didn't do the Girl Scouts, because they be teaching the boys the cool shit, and I didn't care about none of this stuff. I want to learn how to throw knives and stuff. You know, how do I like use a knife and cut up some wood? Like, teach me the cool stuff. Don't teach me like how to sew and stuff. I actually know how to do that. I can sew up a hole. I don't care about that stuff. What about the dangerous shit, the power tools?
That's the gender binary thing, and that's why even with our work as revolutionaries, I don't think it makes sense to do that kind of thing. Like if we're doing survival training or anything like that, like everyone does armed self-defense training, everybody does stop the bleed. Like to me, that's a revolutionary society and culture. I think that's what the Palestinians are on, right? Because like at the end of the day, they aren't like, oh well, only the men can shoot. So this is how this works, right? It's always all of us.
I actually don't believe in the gender binary, and I also would have asked my friends that are girls for money too, not just my daddy. I've definitely asked my friends, and I've definitely hit up somebody that I was cool with and been like, "Can't you just send me $100 real quick?" It actually does not have anything to do with gender, but since I'm only currently dating men, then that's the people I would think to talk to on my roster. But my dad is always going to send me money because I never asked for money. Really, this is probably my third time asking him for money in like my 30 plus years of living, and I'm his favorite, so he's always going to give me money. I'm the most successful, the cutest, you know. What are you gonna do?
Where did you learn to? So that was my original question, though. So Amber, because what ends up happening, I think, for a lot of us is we go on YouTube. Like if it like the crisis happens,
I looked the thing up on YouTube.
All right, but I know some people get taught, so that's why I was asking if anyone in the community taught you, Geechee.
Yeah, no, my cousins and uncles taught me like when I was really young, because I think most of my I guess that's to Amber's point, most of my cousins, they was making weapons and stuff like at a very young age. In fact, I think I almost got I probably got expelled from like elementary or first grade or something like that. Something because one of my cousins who made one of these brass knuckles, it was in my jacket that I had that weekend, and I didn't know it was on my jacket. So I
That's
think
wild.
most of the men in my family, young and old, they always been into like fixing and building and cutting and building stuff like that.
While I don't care if somebody doesn't know like intricate stuff about a car, I do be judging people when they don't know basic stuff. Because first when it happened, I called my mama. And then she was like, "Have you read the manual?" I was like, "Why would I do that?" So then I called the nigga that I talked to, and I was like, "What's wrong? Can you tell me what's wrong with this?" And he was like, "Did you read the manual?" I said, "Do I look like a manual reading ass bitch? What are y'all talking about? Do you know what's wrong or not?" Because I just feel like if you're over 30, you should know basic stuff about your car. That means I gotta know it. That means somebody around me has to know it, so I know the answer. Because when I Googled it, it just said that the sensor was bad and there was nothing that could do. And I was just like, do I want to believe that? So then I was like, let me call somebody. But they didn't have no answers either. Also, Stoner said the way I wouldn't have a sensor anymore. I just wanted you to know that I really did consider that. But my anxiety was very bad about the sensor thing because I am very scared to be stuck on the side of the road somewhere. And although I kept checking the tire and I knew it wasn't low and I was looking at them, it started flashing and shit. When it started flashing, I was like, all right now, let's calm down. Then it was still, then it was just there. Then it went away for like 6 hours. Then it came back. I said, I can't handle it. I'm about to have an anxiety attack. I can't do this. So I took it to the place and got it fixed. I got paid too. We thousandaires again. We are, but I did buy tickets to one music fest that I forgot about. And they definitely took their money. But it's okay because I love one music fest.
Who's coming? Like who you going? Are you just going just to go, or there's a particular?
No, I'm going to see a few people. Dochi's gonna be there. I think Jasmine Sullivan again, Leon Thomas. I'm really excited for Leon Thomas, Mariah the Scientist.
Leon Thomas.
And then I usually get the GA Plus because I love music festivals, and they usually have like one thing right above general admission. So I usually get that because they usually have air conditioned restrooms. And one thing about me, I'm gonna stay hydrated at a music festival, so I might have to pee a few times. So I usually get like the one up thing. But this time I got VIP because they had a four-part payment plan thing, and it actually was maybe like $200 more than the GA Plus. It wasn't a whole bunch more when you split it up like over time. So I was like, okay, I can manage that. You know, I just need to do like a little extra something here and there. And I had like a little extra contract gig because I did a little speaking gig last month. So I was like, I'm gonna just use that for my music fest money because I actually do need some seats too. Like I like the air conditioned restrooms, but I also do need a seat because usually I be sitting like on my jacket. Like I'll take a jacket with me and I'll sit down like on the little metal things and just sit there because I'm trying to be front row. Because I was front row for Leon Thomas. It was amazing. I was front row for Coco Jones one time too. Oh, it was so good. And The Dream. And people didn't even know the songs. And El DeBarge came like 2 years ago. It was so good. My mom was like so geeked out. I FaceTimed her because she's the reason why I listen to El DeBarge. So I FaceTimed her so she can watch, and I sent her a whole bunch of videos and stuff because she has a knee issue. So she can't really go to like concerts and music fests like that unless there's a seat. And we went to Essence Fest and she liked it, but she said that she ain't like the seats that we were in. But I do want to just say I recommended that we buy floor seats from Jump. I said, hey, if we wait till day of, we can get them floor seats for $150. She was like, no, I think we should just do the 200 section. She didn't listen to me and she didn't like it. And I said, well, who's been going to Essence Fest for 3 years now? I don't know.
Listen to the experience for concerts. Peace, everyone.
I do spend like most of my money on concerts. I will say that. Like people be like, what do you spend your money on? I don't do a lot of stuff because I'm going to spend most of my money on music concerts.
Yeah. Just doing a reset. Peace, everyone. Welcome. I'm subbing in for Jared, Lord, Blackman Bill, Josh from the chat. Nice to see y'all this morning. Amber, want to let people know what we got in store for today. We got a little bit of program. We're going to still chop it up.
Lord said that we had to have an agenda, and I said no. Chaos every day.
Democracy. Did I say that, Geechee, or did we?
I don't know.
That?
You know,
right.
And look at Geechee. He trying to
solidarity. Yes, we needed a run sheet.
Yeah. So what we got on the schedule for today?
We're gonna talk about a few calls to actions. We're gonna talk about what's in the name, this Kwame Ture speech, and then I think we still got a little more time for my relationship woes. So I just want y'all to know that Lord wants to talk about Pop the Balloon, and I just want to know I saved y'all. I
wanted us to focus the relationship talk section onto things that everyone can somewhat access and that feel a little bit relevant to them in their own dating life. So not so much our personal, although those are always related, but more the political context. So I did bring up the Pop the Balloon show. I also brought up 50-50 dating, mostly because these are viral topics and they kind of emerge everywhere, including in my own social life this week. As I mentioned, I know somebody who was on the Pop the Balloon show who will remain nameless and things like that. So that's kind of how I was trying to focus it. If we want to just pick those two, I would.
The only references I have about relationships are my personal relationships.
Well,
so
we always are going to bring our personal.
I don't know how we're going to censor it outside of that because
we're going to do it. Because you got a bunch of people who are dating in your circle, even though you're the main character, right? So we go.
I mean, it's actually not that many right now because I just be losing interest. But this week, a ER doctor does have my attention, and I tried to get over the way his voice sounds because it's very extremely proper. Like, did you live in Britain? Like, what's going on? After I got over his voice, though, I actually liked the conversation. So I had to kind of ignore the voice thing because I like to send voice notes. And, when I'm bored, I also like to go change my Hinge location to like random places. Right now, I'm in Brooklyn. Do I live in Brooklyn? Not at all. But I will move to DC next week, probably. I don't know. I don't date people who live here. There's only one person I'm dating here who lives here right now, and I'm finna dump him. So I prefer not dating people who live here. So I'm always move that little map thing around. I also use dating apps to like talk through like how I want to talk about myself. Like kind of like just for the, experience. I feel like because people, if they don't have like a ton of dating experience, they're not sure, what to do. So I like to like just, practice a little bit. I think that's realistic.
Yeah. Well, okay. Then the topic we're gonna pick. And y'all, we do have a time limit on this, just letting y'all know. So we're gonna be rocking to.
We only got like 12 minutes, so
8:30. I guess long distance relationships is an interesting one. You're somebody who says you prefer dating people outside your local, so you're cool traveling for a relationship. Is that how you?
Yeah, but I travel a lot in general, so I usually will date folks who live in the general area that I'm traveling to all the time. I travel up north a lot for like conferences or speaking gigs because that's where people like usually book me for stuff. So because people don't really do stuff down here as much around like the things that I'm speaking about. So I usually kind of stay in that main area, but it's not a big deal to me. I know for some people it's a big deal, but my whole life doesn't revolve around relationships. Like I have a lot of shit going on. I'm busy. And I like have real hobbies and other stuff. So I don't feel like I have to live in the same place as the person because I'm not like codependent.
How many times do you feel like you want to see your partner in like a month, for example? Though that tends to be the thing I hear about long distance. Some people are cool just like with 2 dates, like 2 weekends together, and that's it. But some people can't go like 3 days without seeing their partner. So I think
I would say like 1 or 2 weekends too. But also realistically, the one person I date here and other folks, I see them about that much too. Like the person who lives here, he's in school, he's in college, like getting a bachelor's degree, and he works 10-hour shifts at his job. So he's only off from Friday through Sunday. So I actually only see him one day out of the week, usually, if I see him in that week at all. And most of the people who live in Memphis or places that have like a large warehouse industrial complex usually work jobs like that. So, I mean, that's kind of like the typical schedule that I'm used to anyways. Because most people, I've done that before. I worked a 10-hour shift job before. So like, that's just a normal for a lot of people. I think here in Memphis and in the South in general, realistically, because there's such a large warehouse industrial complex popping off. And I actually hate it, but it's not a big deal to me. I think also like I'd be doing other stuff. I think if all you do, for example, white women who go to college to find a husband and get married, they are very codependent because they're only there. I went to a small PWI in Martin, Tennessee, which is a country town in Tennessee, like Northwest Tennessee. So they're only there usually to find a partner. So they are very codependent because their whole life is surrounded by finding this partner. I'm gonna get a teaching or education degree. I'm gonna become a nurse, something simple, and then I'm gonna get married to this person. So their lives are super consumed with that. My life isn't consumed with that. Like I have other stuff I want to do. I like traveling. I also feel like because I like traveling so much that people like that because it's more adventurous. Like we don't have to, like the New Jersey nigga. I haven't been to New Jersey to see him. We went to Vegas and like other places.
Oh, nice.
I love Vegas. It's a fun place.
Geechee, how you feel on the long distance? What's been your experience?
How I feel long distance. I think I guess it's always been temporary for me. So like I don't. Yeah. So if I have the intentions to be in a long-term partnership, I would assume that we would eventually be. So I don't know. Permanent long distance don't make sense to me. But temporary.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
I told my mom that I do think that in the next 5 years I'm going to move up north anyways. So that's also kind of a reason why I prefer like looking at people up there because I probably am going to live there. I don't know what part. Like I don't know if it would never be New York, but somewhere in the DMV or something. Because all the good, honestly, the jobs that I work, the best paying jobs are up there. The jobs here are trash, and until we like have a better economy here, it's only so long I can stay here working remote. Like eventually I might have to like work in an office somewhere or, you know, do like on the ground stuff. And it's kind of harder to me.
Yeah. Speaking of, the next question I was going to ask is have y'all's dating lives and like priorities about that changed since you become organizers? Because I think that's another thing. And then my question was going to be, do you only date organizers? It doesn't sound, I know Amber doesn't, but I'm just curious, how does that, how has that changed?
I would never date an organizer because my life is already kind of stressful. So I like dating people who are doing completely the opposite from me or like nothing around what I'm doing at all. Because I really prefer someone who's like going to balance out the stuff that I'm doing. But they do have to be like politicized and stuff. Like I'd be sneaking questions in there. I'd be asking stuff like randomly and like just throwing shit in there. Like we were talking about something, I'd be like, yeah. Because, you know, the police are horrible and I don't understand why they would do that. And I try to see how they're going to respond. Like, I just do stuff like that.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, because it becomes like a weird balance, right? Because you're trying to find someone who's politicized to the level, right, to a good level, right? But that's also not an organizer, which isn't impossible. But I do feel like.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be an organizer. I mean, I know folks who have partners who are not organizers, but very politicized. Like some folks I know in Nashville, like my friend Denzel, you know, like his wife isn't necessarily an organizer. Like she's working in a nonprofit, but she's not doing the same exact thing as Denzel and very politicized. They're very on the same, like if I'm thinking of other examples, my friend Shahida, who co-founded our chapter here, her wife isn't an organizer, but very politicized. So I definitely think it's possible. I also throw stuff in there. Like I'll be like, yeah, because what kind of books did you read this year? To kind of see what they're like reading. I feel like that's a good way to find out.
What if you get no books? What if you say, I don't listen, I don't read books? What if that's
like, you niggas don't read? I asked somebody was talking about this person said they came to Memphis and they did notice there was a lot of urban blight. And I said, well, what does urban blight mean to you? And they were explaining that. I said, well, right now they're pushing this blight ordinance with these definitions for urban blight. How do you feel about that? And he was like, oh no, that's not good. Yeah, that feels very targeted. So I was like, see, we're getting there. I think that people use, when they say some words, they don't know how the definitions are used in those places either. So after I explained that to him, he was like, oh no, that's not good. Like, why would they use that definition like this? And I was like, exactly.
Yep. So
but what makes people want to lock in? Because both of y'all are in relationships.
Yes. Well, it's locking in just being in a relationship. You're talking about like a committed.
I would say like, you know, being in a relationship, committed relationship, you know.
Yeah, I'll start. It's this companionship, alignment, shared definition of love, I think. But
a shared definition of love. Let me write this down. Where did that come from?
Bell hooks. That's where that came from for me. For real. She has a definition of love that's very politicized, and I think a lot of people avoid it. But if you have that shared definition of love, which is wanting to develop each other, which is holding the community as an ultimate ideal, that's cool. I think, after that, it's a lot of personal. I'm definitely not a relationship guru, y'all. Just sharing my own experience, by the way. But I think it's a lot
They said
of
y'all are lover boys. I agree.
right. Yeah. Well, I think it's a lot of personal compatibility at that point too. You got you politicize, you share a definition of love, and then now it's a personal compatibility thing. Can you do long distance relationships? Do y'all want to live in the same place? What's the goal for 10 years from now? As Geechee said, I think all of those things, as you keep building a partnership, start coming into focus, and you get drawn more to this person, or you start realizing maybe our paths are gonna split. But it's not a clean line for everyone. I'm not going to say that either. So, Geechee.
I mean, I don't think I have too much to add to that, other than
How you don't have much to add?
I don't. I think Lyric laid it out. Also, just as kind of Lyric said, but I think the constant commitment to growth, for both people having that thing, I think that's a big point. And then I think what comes to my mind as Lyric, say that again.
I like that. I like the concept. I agree about the constant commitment to growth. I think that's like a important one.
Yeah. And then I think as Lyric was talking, I always think about Ashanti Austin's and Sophia's marriage contract, or rather it's a marriage or not, just kind of like two people who could define how they want to show up for themselves, each other, and then their community. And yes, I think that being able to do that is for me important, and something that I've maybe even since I was little always kind of thought about. So
yeah, I will add, I think how you solve problems is also interesting, right? I think you guys, I think y'all can have different approaches for solving a problem. This is if you're a monogamous or polyamorous relationship, whatever, how many partners you're holding. But I think ultimately you have to be comfortable with the way your partner processes issues and have a thing that's compatible with that. That's what I would say. So like if y'all run into an issue, somebody in the family gets sick or whatever, how do you all like to approach that? That can be how y'all's family relationships are, because it's not the same, obviously, but also just your value system. Do we show up? Do we take care of the kids, right? If this person's kids can't be taken care of because they're in the hospital, that kind of thing. I think those things really push people together or apart as well. And I've heard this advice that I think is really good. I struggle with it. It's still a day-to-day challenge. But like that, relationships are you and your partner or partners versus the problem, and not just y'all individually versus the problem. And I mean, it's easy to say, but in practice, I do think it's hard where you're like, well, this is how I feel. This is how I want to blah, 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 blah. But it's like, no, we both have to get to the solution together, which is good organizer training. I'll say that much, but it's hard on a day-to-day.
let me correct if I misspoke. So I did think about marriage very young, because my grandparents were around. Even my father wasn't together, but my mother had partnership. So I did think of that since I was young. I always used to grow up thinking about that. But the marriage contract is something that, like, not saying that I want that. I'm just saying Safia Bakari and Ashanti Austin, what they produce in that book, I think you can read it in the War Before. I think that's the type of a relationship I would want to be in. A relationship that can be co-created, and both people are I guess comfortable in what they are engaged in and how they engage.
Mm.
I think we all get married. Go ahead, Camber. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I think I'm different in that I never ever thought about any of those things.
No,
I don't know if it was just me, like as a child, like the way I grew up or not, but I never thought about marriage. I never thought about kids. It was never a fantasy for me. I was very much into the Cheetah Girls. Like, I want to be like Cinderella sitting in a dark old dusty cellar, waiting for somebody to come in. I can't do it. It's not me. I said, a baby.
Banger. All three of them. Although Raven should have been in the third one.
Because I
Shout out
said,
to
Raven, what happened?
it was some mess. I don't even know.
Raven said she the star. Y'all not gonna play with her check.
She had the best music too. I ain't gonna lie.
She did.
That was great. We'll say, yeah, I think you had that last point that threw me off, so I know we're about to transition, but it was about not just problem solving. Marriage contract. I think all marriages are a contract, right? Like we grow up watching rom-coms and see the vows. Kids learn the marriage vows, as early as possible. So I think all marriage is a contract, but Safia and Ashanti's contract is one that matched their own definitions of love, of community, and their own political alignment. So I think that's really important. Even if you don't formalize the marriage contract, I think everybody to some degree has to do that kind of thing. And also I think for Black people, if we're trying to do relationships, and we talk about this all the time, like we're not going to fit the mold that white middle-class capitalist America has set for us. So we're always going to have to politicize our marriage in some way. That's why I mentioned like some of the stuff that we get into with 50-50 dating and all of this is usually us trying to measure ourselves by white capitalist standards, patriarchal standards.
I never understood the 50-50 dating thing. I'm only doing 0 to 100 dating.
Let me
That's
respond.
fine. I'm just saying when I ask where does
that's something different. Let me respond to something real quick, Mark.
Yeah, good.
So I think all relationships, whether they're marriage or not, there are some written or unwritten contracts, right? In the way in which you engage with each other. And if anything, the way I read Safia's writing in general, and then knowing and talking with Ashanti about it, like those marriage contracts essentially is anything, nothing other than like principles of unity that they are coming together to define what they got going on. And I think that happens with even, whoever, your comrade, your friend, or whatever. Whether do you have the courage to speak it and say these are the things that are my standards and my boundaries, and vice versa. Like if you have the courage to speak it, that's what they did. And most people don't have the courage to kind of speak that. They enter relationships having expectations without communicating it.
Yeah, I do think that people do that unrealistically. And as a lover girl myself, you just wouldn't know up front because I don't be putting that out there like that. But as a lover girl, I definitely understand, wanting companionship and all that stuff. But I also feel like people who are only romantic or only romanticize relationships with the people they're attracted to versus their actual like family and friendships are never going to do well, because my relationships with my friends are locked in. Like they're my girls and my niggas. Like I don't have to only get like love and care from someone I'm dating. So I also think that that's a big thing too. Like I don't have to feel like I'm rushed to be in a relationship with someone because I'm very much well loved, well liked, very popular, cared for. I don't have to do that. And I do think that some people need to consider that before jumping in relationships. I think people do it a little prematurely, just a little bit. And I just wish that we would, give stuff a little more thought. Like I personally don't jump in relationships quickly at all. I've dated somebody for 6 months without being in a relationship with them. I feel like you should take your time until you feel comfortable with it, or if that's something you want to do, then do it. But don't feel like a rush because people create these unrealistic timelines around dating.
No, I ground that. That's 100% how I feel. That's what I've studied from revolutionary Black feminist theory. I've heard feminism in one sense defined as trying to destroy hierarchical relationships that reinforce sexist oppression, which is why the whole community as a form of love makes sense. So I hear you. I really do. I think qualitatively things are unique, right? Like a romantic partnership, someone you're attracted to sexually, that is a unique situation. But I do hear you. Like that doesn't necessarily prioritize more in my mind than the relationship I have with my brothers, for example. Like that to me feels just as sacred, even if it's a little bit different. So shout out.
Like even like when I went to Africa last year, like someone I was talking to was like upset that I was like leaving in like during the holiday season or whatever because they want to spend time with me. But I was like, I'm going to Africa with my mama. Like me and my mama, we already planned this trip. And this year I'm going to see my little sister in London. Like, I will never put romantic relationships before like my actual family and friends. Like, that's just not something I would do. Especially when I didn't even know you then. I didn't even know this nigga when I made the decision to go to Africa. You think I'm gonna stay for you? No. Like, let's be serious here.
There are people who would, and that's what I mean about that, the relationship values being aligned. There are some people who are like, that's my man, I got to do that. What are you talking about? I'm searching for love. So
if that nigga don't get a plane ticket and shut up, I don't know what to tell you.
Word. Well, that's our time. That's our relationship segment, y'all. We did it. We structured it. We packaged it a little bit. And I want us to maybe move into a call.
I want to say I hate it. I just want to make the note that I hate it. This intro is like super, super long. I didn't realize it. But what's up, y'all? Welcome to the Remix Morning Show. Amber, of course, Geechee, Lorik. His name really Josh. But it is 7:36 a.m. Central, 8:36 Eastern. If you're in that time zone, I don't know why you are, but yeah. And make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. I want to pull up a quick call to action that we want to talk about for Mumia, and some ways that folks can take action for him. So right now, his eyesight is in danger, and we're doing a call-in campaign. I actually called in the other day when Jared had someone from the French Collective on, because I be watching. But so you can make calls to the prison, SCI Mahoney, the superintendent of SCI Mahoney, Bernadette Mason, the PA Department of Corrections Secretary. Okay, I was like, what is that? The Pennsylvania Department of Corrections Secretary, Laurel Hardy. There's a number and an email. And you can also contact the central office of PA, and the email is there too. And the most important thing you want folks to know is that Mumia's eyesight is endangered. He's experiencing irreversible vision loss that can lead to permanent blindness. His sight is threatened by 2 conditions which are correctable. And the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, its contracted health care provider WellPath have allowed his vision to deteriorate to the point that he is functionally blind. I do just want to say, for folks who have never heard of WellPath, WellPath is the largest health provider for prisons and ICE detention centers. We have WellPath here in Memphis in the Shelby County Jail, and they suck. They don't have a full-time psychiatrist on staff at all. They don't even have like a part-time person. They come randomly like a few days out of the week. They don't provide consistent medical care. And over 40% of the jail population here in Memphis has mental health conditions that they're in jail to be treated for. Like, that's the only reason why they're in jail, is because they have a mental health condition and there's no other place for them to go. And WellPath doesn't provide good actual services for that. So I called an email because of that too. I'm just very concerned because I know that WellPath is trash. They are slow walking him into blindness by delaying for months his treatment for his post-cataract condition and the recently diagnosed diabetic retinopathy. Yeah, I was on the show too I was listening to the show when the lady from the French Collective was talking, and she said that when they first visited him, he told them not to make a big deal about it because they said they had him scheduled for a surgery or some kind of like treatment in July, and then that never happened. And I can understand like him not trying to make a big deal out of it, but yeah, I think it's a huge deal now, and they can fix it. Like, she was just saying, it just takes like barely 60 seconds to like laser his eyes and fix it. So as many folks who could call in as possible, that will be great. And there's also a script on here too. So y'all have all the info that you need. I also want to talk about a little breaking news that happened yesterday. Actually here in Memphis. So the Shelby County Director of Reentry was arrested for 12 felony counts of embezzlement. He actually I just want to say I am most pissed off about this because this nigga just got a fucking pardon. in 2023. You know how hard it is to get pardons? It's so hard to get a pardon. The county government and like the mayor and stuff petitioned on his behalf to get him a pardon, and he didn't fucked up. And I just want people to know, you can't steal like white people steal. That's the main lesson we need to learn here. You cannot steal like white people. Okay, you got to keep that shit in a low few thousand. You can't be stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're gonna get found out. It's distressing me that he thought he wasn't gonna get caught. But basically, he is the Shelby County Director of Reentry and a pastor. He was arrested on Wednesday. He was indicted from official misconduct ranging back to 2020. So it's 12 counts of property theft, computer crime, money laundering, and official misconduct. The indictment comes following an investigation into Brown and his wife, Vanessa Brown, which found that they misappropriated over $626,800 from Lifeline to Success, a Memphis-based nonprofit that DeAndre Brown helped found. He also served as the organization's executive director, as well as the pastor of Lifeline to a Dying World Ministries, according to an investigative report from the Tennessee Comptroller of the Treasury's office. Now, at one point, his wife did take over being the ED, so he's not the current ED, but it's just some iffy stuff in there. They found that Brown had improperly paid himself around $285,600 in government grants, and found personal purchases totaling at around $256,000, which included meals from expensive restaurants, hairstyling services. They also took a trip to Jamaica. And I said, now, how was you going to hide that trip to Jamaica, friend? Come on now. Y'all are committing crimes badly around here. And
wait, so it's his husband, it's the husband and the wife? The
husband and the wife. The husband is DeAndre Brown. His wife is Vanessa Brown. He had a $1.1 million bond. She had a $400,000 bond. Now, they don't even do that shit for murderers. So I just want to say, they are trying to make an example out of this nigga. This is why I don't fuck with the government and why I don't trust him. He probably stole a little bit, but that ain't enough for this. Like, they doing too much. They doing too much. Like, you get this nigga a $1.1 million bond. He doesn't have any violent. Even the crime he committed that he was pardoned for was not violent. The crime he committed that he pardoned for was also stealing. I just want to say.
I mean, I was gonna say that's like the ICC or ICJ or whatever, and how you go on their website and it's only Africans, like the worst dictators and murderers and thieves in the world, and it's just a list of African leaders, not a single European on there. So yeah, I hear you, Amber. We're always the example. We always become the face of something. Kanye becomes the face of anti-Semitism. Bill Cosby becomes the face of sexual assault. Not to say they ain't do that shit. We just
it's not about them doing it. It's about them trying to make an example out of some shit that we know.
Exactly.
Now, because he know he wrong for buying these season tickets, y'all. So, and also, he could have got away with this. This is the issue, too. He actually could have gotten away with the season ticket thing if he had let the other people use the season ticket passes. So his employees were given tickets to go, but they were in a different section, like a regular section, while him and his wife were in like a box. Now, if you had let the employees be in the box, you would not have gotten caught, you dummy. And this is what I'm talking about. Y'all can't steal correctly. Now, I don't be stealing, but I mean, I just know you can't do stuff like that. They gonna find you out. They always gonna find out. It's
a catch-22, right? I said this is it's not the iron triangle or whatever. You can't be rich, famous, and radical. But my version is if you're in the black bourgeoisie, you have to be delusional or a sociopath or both. Like there's no, and it's usually some combination of the two. But it's so like to even be in a government position, you had to obviously have some sort of support, right, from the people. Then you have to be willing to steal like that. And then to me, the mindset to even think to steal like that is white capitalist politicians type of mindset. Like you gotta think like them, but recognize you aren't them. Because Mayor Suarez, the Miami's mayor currently, stole $177,000. They got him on record for this shit. And the Miami City Commission just postponed elections until 2026. So just fully illegal. Yeah, I know.
It's hella illegal. And I know they're getting sued about it too, right?
Yeah. But see, the white people, they can do that, right? But if you tried to do 177,000 with all of it on record with a paper trail, like, yeah, that's
And my thing also is that, like, the issue here is that when they do stuff like this, trying to make an example out of them, they only build up that fan base because DeAndre was very well liked. He actually does great reentry work. They have reduced our recidivism rate by like 30+%. Like, he does really good work. The issue was that now that he's gotten arrested for this thing and they've done so much against him, giving him this high bond, it's really turned the community like towards him. So now no one is fucking with I don't fuck with the government anyways, but now people barely believe in it because of how they're treating him. So that's going left for them. And realistically, the stuff he did before this is the same shit, just on a bigger level. And this is also why when you have people with nonprofits, because Leah in the comments said, not a thieving pastor politician. He's not a politician. He was the executive director of reentry. So he didn't have to run for that. He was appointed to that, but he definitely probably did some of this stuff, but he just didn't do it right. And now he's being made the example. I did look up his previous thing that he got arrested for. So it was in like 1999, it was theft over 10,000 and theft over 1,000 and forgery and burglary of a motor vehicle. So not violent stuff. And then the counts for this is 3 counts of property theft over 250,000, 2 counts of property theft between 60,000 and 250,000, 2 counts of computer crimes, 60,000 or more, 2 counts of computer crimes between 10,000 to 60,000, 2 counts of money laundering and official misconduct. And now I'm gonna tell y'all why this nigga gonna probably get off on most of this shit. They overcharged him, and they do this a lot. They do this a lot here, other places too, but here especially, one of the main reasons why the niggas who killed Tyree Nichols got off for a lot of those charges is because they overcharged them. And they do that often. So he's probably going to get off on most of that shit because they say he only stole a total of $600,000, but you didn't charge him for 3 and 2 counts of over $250K. That doesn't equal 600 something. That's over that. So like, he's going to get most of that shit dropped. And now the government just looks bad again. But my whole point was that we can't steal like white people steal. Y'all got to get y'all shit together. If you're going to steal, you got to do it the right way. Like, I can't give y'all no tips because I don't steal. But he definitely got caught. And I feel bad for him, but it happens. Yeah. And he's still in jail because it would take close to $1 million to bail both of them out, even with a bail bondsman, because bail bondsmen here have now been requiring 50% instead of the 10%. So for 1.1 million, he would need 500K. And for her, she would need 200K. And they ain't got that. So they still in jail.
Yeah. I appreciate how you ground and know your local conditions so well. And it's just amazing how easily they just reflect onto everywhere else in the internal colony. You know, in Miami, someone's in the chat already pointed out Carollo. Yeah, before Suarez, Carollo stole millions of dollars. I think Stono said that that company you mentioned killed somebody in Charleston. And I'm
the
seeing
Wellpath,
yep. I'm seeing
Wellpath has also been they've been called out and being held responsible for folks who have died in the 201 Poplar jail too. We've had about 7 deaths this year, and it's only August. And that's beat the last year record of like 5 people. But we have more deaths in our jail than they have in Rikers. So that should tell you a lot about the conditions of the jail and the type of service that Wellpath is giving. And they had a chance, our county commission had a chance to not renew their contract, but they didn't want to pay more. There was someone who like filled out the little RFP for the contract stuff, presented his contract, but it was like $3 million. And I mean, I understand it's a lot of money, but at least niggas will live.
Right, to not torture people. Too much of a cost for the U.S. government.
He was like, that's how much it would cost to actually staff the jail because people don't currently staff it. They have like one nurse that works there, and then they don't have a consistent doctor. He said you need consistent doctors. Like, that's just realistic. And you have to have multiple nurses. And he was right. Like, if you got almost 2,000 people in a jail that's only meant to hold 800, what do you think is going to happen? Like, diseases and sicknesses don't spread. My friend was in there for like a day, and he almost got COVID. He got like something really close to COVID, but he was only in there for a day because they're all on top of each other. So yeah, I agree on the Wellpath shit. I like someone said high class klepto is crazy, you know, because that's what's going on here. That nigga got a good government job. He thought he could steal for real, and it bounced back on him. And I just hope that we're all taking the lesson that we could never do what white people do.
No, ever. Not at all. They DeSantis, when he was running against Andrew Gillum down here, there was a big scandal over Gillum getting some Hamilton tickets or some shit. And again, yeah, I know there was a lot. There's actually a lot of intrigue around Gillum and some of the things I think he's been set
He's
up
so
for.
interesting. He's so
But
interesting.
yeah, I mean, he is very whatever. I'm not going.
My boy got a lot going on. I said, nah,
he got a lot going on. I know, but he sure as hell got like it was a big scandal. Again, I'm like DeSantis worked at fucking Guantanamo, but this guy
also he's still very popular. Like I feel like when people put those campaigns out against folks, like the whole Andrew Gillum scandal stuff, it only made him more popular. Like even when he was getting charged for them crimes and shit.
Angela Rye got a show now.
And he still got big bank. Like Andrew Gillum didn't suffer for real, and they thought that he would. But when you do stuff like this to black folks, it only makes folks support him more. Like all I'm saying is
because it looked like
his wife out. What'd you say?
Because does you think it make black folks support them more because it looks like the state is attacking them and taking them down, so they get
They are.
But what I'm saying is, when people, at least our people, think that tries to legitimize that, they're really radical. They was doing something radical, even though their politics could be liberal or all, but because they're being attacked, it makes it look like a
the Democrats really love playing on that. Amber, only thing I was going to say is a little complex to that narrative with Gillum is his queerness, but also there was the story, which planted or otherwise, about his infidelity and things like that. Basically,
which I had no issue with, like Andrew,
Black Christian man, family, wife, all of those things, it does work against him in that way. I have heard some pretty homophobic remarks, but also some just like, how are you doing your wife like that kind of things, which, again, I'm not looking at a politician.
And most of them are doing their wives like that, just so y'all know. Okay.
But I do understand that, for people who are politicians in the traditional sense, they're selling a fantasy of themselves and of their values and how they represent America. And so in that way, I think Gillum kind of blew that up. But as we already said, you can just
Henry Clark, if you go over there, stay over there.
Yeah. And you can fail upwards in the Democratic Party, right? So like
he
says, he's got to show Angela Rye now, and I still see him on CNN or whatever. So yeah.
Another example of the stealing thing and them not getting the same type of treatment is there were two doctors here in Tennessee that were, one of them was a senator, one of them was a state rep, who stole a whole bunch of Medicaid funds. Like they did Medicaid fraud, like millions of dollars in Medicaid fraud. And they just had to pay a fine. And it wasn't even publicized for real. But then there was a black senator here, Katrina Robinson, who they tried to get on like a few $100s. Like they did the same thing they doing to DeAndre. They had all these counts of like misappropriation and forgery and all that stuff. And then end up dropping most of them because they were overcharging her. And most of them were unfounded once they like came to court and stuff. And then it ended up being like under $1,000 or something that they got her on. And they started investigating her when she won her Senate race. So she ran against this guy who was an incumbent, who was trash, but he was very well liked. They loved that nigga, like down. And he had all the little white Republicans on his side. But when she came in, they opened an investigation a few months after she got her seat. And then held on to that for like 4 years and was investigating her over time. She had a nursing school and they were investigating her in the nursing school. And it was crazy because she didn't even do nothing for real. Realistically, when you look at it, it was just an accounting error. She wasn't the accountant. She has an accountant. The accountant admitting to making a mistake and they were able to fix it. But like they didn't even give her a chance and then charging her in federal fucking court. I said, this is insane. Yeah, they be stealing for real in them in these southern states. Louisiana be having scandals with them white men. East Tennessee, especially, them reps have been stealing. One of the state reps who was the House person like 4 years ago, he was the House Speaker. That nigga got caught on video and audio snorting cocaine, and they didn't come for him till like a few years later. But now he going through federal court, him and his chief of staff. But if they did not have like audio and text messages of them, they wouldn't have got. I said, because why are you snorting in the office?
I was going to say, don't we have Hunter Biden on camera smoking crack? Like, so,
that man got on an interview. That man got on the interview and broke down the different types of cocaine and crack and what it do to your body. She said, well, yeah, you seem like an expert. He said, no, I don't know that much about it.
That's the Bill Clinton.
I said, Hunter, Please.
I rolled the J. I did everything. I lit it, but I didn't inhale. Don't worry, guys. I don't know.
No, I don't know what's going on. It was too much. I said, why people get away with everything? And I saw that firsthand when I went to the DNC. I only went to the little convention center thing one day because it was insane trying to get there. I was in the VIP thing because I was doing a live like commentary with Revolt. So like because I had my kafia on and everything, they wouldn't even let me in at first. They had to come and get me. So I was back there doing the live commentary thing before Kamala spoke and like going in about her, like about Palestine and other stuff. Baby, they out there, they smoking, they taking shots. I'm seeing all kind of people. I said, is that? They lit. Raphael Warnock back there in the little room with them. I said, they getting it in. They out there having a good time. Not getting in as sex. Sorry, let me just clarify that. Getting it in is like partying, turning up.
Yeah.
But they be crunk. And I be like, y'all think these people are just such sweet and wholesome. And they be in here turned up.
Yeah.
Phrasing.
Yeah, because I don't want you to think what I'm talking about.
In the chat says laws only apply to the poor. That's absolutely true. Yeah, shout out.
They do. I realized how expensive it was being poor like a few years ago. And I was like, this is why niggas can't come out of this. It's so fucking expensive. It's expensive to be poor and it's expensive to have ADHD. And I got both. So mixed together.
That's why socialism is your only option. You ain't got no.
You're funny. I like how you slip that in there. I like how you slip it in there. Oh, someone said Senator Rick Scott, the U.S. Department of Justice, won 14 felony convictions against the company, which was fined $1.7 billion in what was at the time the largest healthcare fraud settlement in U.S. history.
Yeah, Rick Scott.
Senator Rick Scott, that black dude.
No, Rick Scott's a white, damn near Klansman who wears like snakeskin Confederate boots.
Who is the guy from Florida? The black guy.
Rick. You're thinking of
Tim Scott from South Carolina.
Or you're thinking about
Tim Scott. Tim Scott.
From South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm thinking about him. Okay, Rick Scott is a white guy. Tim Scott, black. Both of them last name Scott. So one of them was a slave master.
Right, exactly. Rick Scott looks kind of like a snake.
Tim Scott is the one who be smiling with the big smile with Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him. He's embarrassing.
Listen, we knew that man in South Carolina before he got on this. He's always been.
I do have one more piece of breaking news that just dropped. So the federal trial for the officers who killed Tyree Nichols that happened previously, the judge recused himself like this summer, and they got assigned a new judge. And 3 of the officers put in a motion for a new trial because the judge said, and I quote, all those Memphis officers are gang members. They got gang members all the way up through the top of the ranks. And I said, my nigga not wrong. Okay. You're not lying, buddy, but now you done fucked it up. So they grant them a new trial just for 3 of them, but they grant them a new trial. So now everybody's all upset. And I said, we wouldn't be upset if we would stop looking for justice in the criminal and justice system, because the only true justice is, and unless we get, then it's not going to work out for us. I don't know. Unless I can't say what I want to say, but you know what I want to say. So they was all upset with me yesterday because I wasn't giving what they wanted. I said, I don't know what you want from me. I had said from the jump, I don't believe in the criminal and justice system. I don't give a fuck about this federal trial. And if they get convicted, oh, well, we know they did it. And so now, they're like, Amber, she hates criminal and justice. I was like, but I've never liked it. Like, this is not a new thing. We've been talking about this for a while. I didn't go to most of the federal trial. I didn't go to most of the state trial because I don't care, because none of that will give anyone justice. But now they get a new trial, so it's like a whole thing. Everybody's all upset. And I was like, yeah, it is going to be a whole thing. But one of the officers did turn in his post certification. He gave it up, which is what he should have done from jump. But this is Tadarius Bean. He turned in his certification.
Whenever you said just something about, like, they say that Amber is against the criminal justice system. Whenever whoever those critics are, do they credit your positions to like an organization that you with, or they just saying like Amber? So does it what you do give a negative?
Well, they were asking me because I led the campaign, like to get the ordinances passed here and to like get the unit disbanded and get like changes made. Like, so the police department has like all these new policies and like they can't do that task force unit again because of this. So that's why they were asking me what I thought about it. And all I told them was that I have never believed in the criminal injustice system. We all know that Tyree Nichols was murdered. We saw it on video. We didn't even have to. I saw a picture of him and knew that they killed him. So it doesn't matter how many trials y'all have because the entire city of Memphis has said from jump, them people killed him. And even in the post about the new trial, all the comments are saying, we already know y'all killed him. Like, it doesn't matter how many trials you do because it's literally on video of y'all beating the shit out of him, like consistently. No one is going to believe anything that the courts say anyways. Even when the first verdict came, like people did not believe it. They were like, yeah, y'all just gave him a not guilty. Oh, well, we know that they're guilty. So I think that most people don't believe in the criminal justice system when they really think about it. Like in theory, they're like, oh yeah, we want justice. But when you really talk to them, they realize they're not going to get that justice out of this system, especially from federal court. Federal court has a much higher standard. There is so much like more strict. For folks who don't know on the stream, I have a master's of legal studies. So I study law, I write laws, write policy, all that stuff. So I understand that when it comes to federal court, the strict standard is so high that it's very hard to get like the convictions that you want realistically, because you're also fighting with constitutional rights. So like, and it's always up in limbo. And we don't see Black people as deserving constitutional rights. So even in like the videos and stuff of the trial or the transcripts from the trial, like you see how they dehumanize Tyree because they don't see Black folks as having rights in the first place. So I just don't think that it's realistic. But they were quoting me because I led that campaign. Now, when I've done interviews before, and I haven't done that many, I don't do a lot of news interviews. I really just kind of like either post my own stuff or like share what I want to say online. But they would quote me as an organizer with our official bill in Memphis chapter because I am like our policy organizer. So that's usually what they quote it as. But I also would think coming from our official bill in Memphis chapter, you would know then that I'm an abolitionist and I don't believe in these systems in the first place. And I showed that from jump. The only time I went to federal court was for the verdict to sit with his family because his mom called me and asked me to come. Other than that, I wasn't going to that shit. I don't care about them people.
Nah, for Black August, we read Revolutionary Suicide and hearing about Huey and how he cares for the people and approach court, the Panthers as well. It's real similar in the sense that they don't believe it's going to work, but they know they can potentially hide in the contradictions or at the bare minimum just show up for their community. And build rapport and build trust in that way. So I hear you. Going into some shit knowing you're about to lose is not fun. But if you're there for the families, if you're there for the community, it's worth it. So I hear you.
Sono asks, are you publicly associated with an org, Amber? Yeah, I'm in our official bill in Memphis chapter here and Decarcerate Memphis. I do policy organizing for both. And like campaign and strategy organizing for both of those. So yeah, I am. But I also don't necessarily feel like I have to say, I also feel like I don't have to like say that every single time I'm doing an interview of something because most people already know here and they'll just put it like in whatever I'm talking about. But I also don't do a lot of news interviews anyways. It's not really my thing. I did some like back in like 2020, 2021 around bail and stuff. And then most of the stuff that I talked about online was really with like larger publications like Vice News or like Democracy Now! Around the Tyree Nichols case stuff, just because I wanted to get out what our demands and stuff were. But I really feel like the news, especially if you're not media trained, just kind of pivots what you're saying and can like make it into what, whatever they want it to be. So because I am very media trained, people also ask me to be the spokesperson a lot because I know how to talk to them. They can't get shit out of me that I don't want them to have. And I'm most likely going to say the same 2 sentences for every question. So I don't be getting got, which I also think is important for folks. You got to be media trained. But the thing I was pulling up was that Tadarius Bean turned in his post certification. So the Tennessee Peace Officer Standards and Training certification had a hearing Thursday afternoon. He wasn't present for the hearing, but he did go ahead and surrender it already. So they're supposed to vote on it on Friday, but he already turned it in. And I think that kind of shows that he know that he finna go to prison. So he might as well wrap that shit up. He know it's kind of over for him, which I mean, it is. It's over for him.
Go for it. Get out of here. So we were just talking about the news, and I think that's a perfect transition to this next section, because thinking about how the news has changed over time and what we used to be able to see versus what we have on now is a little wild.
And how we have to use independent media and stuff too.
Like Liberation Media would be where I would, hope we could house a conversation like what we're about to review. So those of you who
give
have
like a little intro into the video too.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to do. So those who haven't seen this is called What's in the Name. It was a TV spot with several panelists who we're going to see, and I think they all represent different strains of political thought in our community. So I think that's really important. And we're going to just be debating a question that still plagues us to this day, which is what's in a name? What do we call ourselves? Are we Afro-Americans, New Africans, African-Americans? Terms that didn't exist yet, FBA, ADOS, right? But this is in, I want to say 1989, Amber, that this video is from. So what we're going to do for the next section is we're just going to react to this video, what it makes us think about, how it's still relevant today. And then we're going to talk a little bit with the chat, see what y'all think. And yes, Zenzi, I'm getting into my hosting. I'm new here. I'll get there soon. Okay, so this is What's in the Name featuring Kwame Ture, 1989. We'll just let it run, and then Amber, Geechee, if y'all have anything you want to say.
It's in the Black community in the past 2 decades. It's the issue of changing from Black to African American.
Make the screen big.
It had only been 22 years since the last major name change had occurred.
Make the screen big.
It happened just after a white racist shot James Meredith.
What'd you say?
Make the screen big in YouTube and then hit play.
And captions if you can, please.
Yeah, so go to the bottom right.
How much?
You facilitate classes. You know how this goes. Stop it.
Actually, I do, and they always ask for captions too. I say, "Are y'all blind and deaf?" Oh my god!
Exactly.
I'm so worried.
All right, so we go ready with captions. Full screen.
The screen bigger though.
Full screen to the bottom right.
The little square. Yep. Go.
Now hit play. There you go.
The first Black graduate of Ole Miss. The shooting occurred on a southern highway as Meredith was leading a voter registration march from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi. It so enraged student activist Stokely Carmichael that as he emerged from a Greenwood, Mississippi jail where he had been held for his voter registration work, the first words to emerge from his mouth were Black Power. It was the beginning of a major new phase in Black confidence and self-assertion that captured the imagination and stirred the consciousness of Black people all over the world. Now, according to some polls, a majority of Black people have said they prefer the term African American. But the issue is far from settled.
I prefer to be called African American because African American reflects the true nature of my cultural heritage.
And I think it's better for you to be called Black. What's wrong with that? It's different Black. It's Black Africans. It's Black West Indians. You know, Black is beautiful. That's what I have to say.
I'm an American, whether I'm a Black American or what, don't make any difference. I'm just an American.
You had the caucus in the election, they kept calling him Greek American. So being that every Black person over here has African heritage, you know, it should be called African American.
Editorials in both Black and white publications generally supported the call to use African American. The New York Times called it healthy archaeology, arguing that Blacks may now feel comfortable enough in their standing as citizens to adopt the family surname American, and their first name, African, conveys a pride in cultural heritage that all Americans cherish. Said the Chicago Defender, as the world continues to shrink, Americans who speak to their Africanness with the African American title will likely find the cultural, education, and economic relationship with others much smoother. Opinion also varied among the guests we interviewed in our special Black History Month series.
I always thought that Afro-American or African-American was the appropriate designation. And there is some beneficial effects in acknowledging the reality, the African heritage and the American presence. But that's not the critical issue. The critical issue is gaining power.
I believe that it is important for us as a people to think that we are connected to the world, because the African diaspora was for real. We were sent to different parts of the world.
Well, naturally, it's our heritage. But all of us here are really educated and exposed to American life. So is that we really are, we have to dig back for this ancestry. I mean, I'm not an African.
It's a very complicated question. So rather than argue over it, let's not give up Black, let's not give up Africa. So in all the work that I do, the essays I write, I use both interchangeably.
Can you pause?
For more on the story, we turn now to 4 other people with different views. Kwame Ture.
Okay, so that's the grounding for the panel in this TV story. I thought there was a lot interesting in there. Shout out Haki Madabuti, but also Camille Cosby. That's Bill Cosby's partner, if y'all aren't familiar, who Felicia Rashad's character is based off of, which was really interesting in there. I thought there were some things that when we heard from people on the street provided a certain clarity that not everybody had back then, but I definitely think is not necessarily as present now. So I was amazed at the first person who was just like, Pan-Africanism, we're all Black, there are different types of Black. But there was another brother who said that we all have roots if we're here from Africa. And while that seems uncontroversial here, I think in our era, especially with the right-wing media ecosystem we live in, that is contested as a fact that we all come from Africa, or everybody who's in the Western Hemisphere that's Black right now has African ancestry. I don't think that's something that everyone agrees on right now. So that was my first thoughts listening to that. How about y'all?
I don't think they're interchangeable. I don't agree with the term African American. I actually never really have since like elementary, middle school. To me, it all aligns with like saying the Pledge of Allegiance and stuff like that. Like, I don't feel American, never have felt American. Like, I feel like the people who feel American are the ones who stole the country and pretty much nobody else. I've always identified as Black, and it kind of makes sense to me. I do think it was interesting the people who were saying stuff, like the guy who was like, I'm an African American, was very much given like peak middle class businessman. And then the lady who was like probably Caribbean or something was like, yeah, Black, because we're all some type of Black. I was like, yeah, exactly. I also hate when people say Blacks because I'm a Black person. And the reason why like Black people are so dehumanized in general is because we have this long like standing practice of people just saying Blacks, but we don't say whites, we say white people. So I ain't like that part in the little article either.
Get you?
I'm thinking about seeing Haki on there and his genre or time of contributors to, I guess, African thought, Kobe Cambone, Bobby E. Wright before them. And when I'm watching that thing, I'm seeing two different crowds. I'm seeing people like react to folks who have those type of conversations of I'm Black, I'm Native, I'm all whatever. And they kind of like speak, I guess, condescendingly towards those folks where they're like, oh, they should know that they're African, they should know that whatever. But I think sometimes we fail to like, I guess, ground with where people are at and why they're having those type of conversations. And yes, so I think sometimes I see a little bit too much of the they should know this thing or whatever, right? And even some of this should be messy. But the reality is like, what are the people struggling with? And then if, as you're saying, that video was a long time ago, and it's like the conversation has not evolved, and the people have not evolved. So if we think that people should be farther along than they should be, then I think we're not doing good at social investigation as it relates to the people that we're trying to organize. But that conversation is still prevalent. My homeboy was talking the other day, like, yeah, man, I traced my roots back to 1860. And I'm Native. And I'm like, well, American Project started at 1400. So, I mean, even if you are Native, they still took your shit. So how you going to respond to them?
Yep.
So.
Yeah. I deeply appreciate that, Geechee. That's why I use this for political education. This is part of what I call Introduction to Black Studies, but just to show that we all in the community every day are doing this kind of stuff. We're all thinking, we're all doing philosophy, we're all doing dialectics. And so I know some people in the chat are already reacting to African American, and I think that's interesting, but I do try and contextualize it, like you said, in this era, was that seen as like revolutionary or radical, right? Because I grew up with it on the census box, filling it in for standardized text and stuff like that. I don't think that was the same case in the 80s, right, which we're seeing here. And the other thing about dialectics is like it's a moving target. Things are constantly changing. Forces are in conversation. So I don't think any of these labels are perfect. And I think that's what this video, I really appreciate, like you said, getting into the social realities of different elements of our people and why they are aligned with certain phrases. Because like to that Black man who I agree, Amber, class is super important here. But he is like, well, I want to assert my Africanness in the same way that other people are proud to assert their heritage. So for him, the African part of the equation is what he's focused on. But I think for a lot of us, as you said, like that American part is not what we want. But then the question becomes, how do we label the descendants of the African diaspora who were brought to America, enslaved here, built a culture and community in this empire, right? And I don't think we have a perfect label for that. Right. I know Malcolm was saying Afro-American, but then eventually settles on what Kwame Ture is going to raise here. So I'm just trying to hold that. And I know we're going to get into it. So if we could jump back in, I think it'll be interesting to see
Before that, I also think really quick. So this kind of merged back to one of the other conversations about companionship or I guess whatever you call it, intentional effort to build generative relationships with another person, however you call it. But practicing that versus like being isolated or non-committal, whatever people would call it, practicing such a connection helps you break down some of this hyper focus on what other people are struggling with and being able to balance and focus on what you're struggling with as opposed to other people and yourself. So yeah, I think even again the general response to such a video kind of relates back to the conversation we was having. And you can play. Yeah,
and also that's why I be like, you gotta have 4 Black grandparents, and people be mad when I say that.
Is an organizer with the All African People's Revolutionary Party, a group attempting to politically unite African people living in 113 countries all over the world. It was his call for Black power in 1966, when he was known as Stokely Carmichael, that catapulted the term Black into popular usage. Leon Winter is a copy editor for the Wall Street Journal, and last week wrote an article that appeared on the journal's op-ed page called "This African American Still Feels Black." J. Bruce Llewellyn is a businessman who owns the 8th largest Coca-Cola bottling company in the country. He also owns television station WKBW, an ABC affiliate in Buffalo. Ramona Edlin is president of the National Urban Coalition. She proposed the name change at the Chicago meeting of Black leaders last December. And to you, Ms. Edlin, the current initiative is largely your brainchild. Why is it important to use that term and not Black?
Can you pause? I'm sorry, real quick.
We have an opportunity to renew value.
Just want to pause here. So usually in this part of PE, I'll ask everybody to write the names and like the class position of every single person we just got introduced to. I saw Geechee, you reacted to J. Bruce Llewellyn, a quite literal like capitalist, almost out of the cartoons, right? Like owns a factory and a TV station. Go ahead, Geechee.
No. I react. So I watched this video a couple of times, and ironically, I do also use it sometimes for a political education around those type of conversation. And I was reacting kind of like seeing him again, like, oh, he annoyed me in the video, but then able to, again, as you say, settle with like, this is a class position and this is what's talking. So like, you're not mad at the dude, you're mad at the way in which he formulated his ideas and share or perpetuate a particular social order.
Yeah. So we have J. Bruce Llewellyn, the capitalist, who's also lighter skinned. We do want to point it out. It's interesting, right? We have Ramona Edelin, who is representing the National Urban Coalition. So I think someone in the chat might have been Leah already mentioned that the term African American being potentially introduced by the NAACP, though I think it enters our lexicon earlier, if I'm not mistaken. So we have somebody from like this kind of civil rights group, Ramona Edelin. We have Kwame Ture, who we already know is a Pan-Africanist revolutionary. We have J. Bruce Llewellyn, who is a capitalist business owner. And then I think we have another journalist whose name is escaping me right now, but is a contributor to the Wall Street Journal. So these are the people who are making up this panel that's discussing what we call ourselves. Go ahead, Amber. Sorry about that.
No, I just wanted to add, I too had a reaction to the Coca-Cola nigga. And it made me think of the colorism things that I'm seeing on TikTok right now around like dark-skinned men and light-skinned men. And people just, explaining how folks' trajectory through life is also a direct reflection of colorism and stuff too, which is what I feel like this was, because be for real.
Yeah. But we're gonna get where we also got to get where from the diaspora he's from to add to that. So that's gonna be interesting. Yeah. Let's let this play. You're right, Amber.
Okay.
Values such as mastery and learning, the importance of the family, unity, which is of the utmost importance right now, at a time when our children couldn't be in more distress and turmoil, when we face a new century. And it's up to us to be sure that the problem of the 21st century is not also the problem of the color line, as Du Bois prophesied in 1903 this century would be.
But how does African American affect all of that?
Well, we see, going back to African cultural ties, to the land base that is our mother, as crucial in this process. And what I'm hoping is that we can recreate some of the spirit of the movement years, particularly for the children, by going back to values which were stripped systematically from us, as we all know, when we were enslaved for 250 years in this nation.
Mr. Winter, you don't want to change from Black.
No, well, I don't disagree that it is important for us to be cognizant of where we come from and the depth of our history that began before slavery. I just don't see the particular need in calling for renewal of the movement to leapfrog over the 400 odd years of history and of proud accomplishments that we can point to and indeed need to reacquaint our children with here in this country first. So I believe that it is important to teach the children and to, in general, imbue Black America with the knowledge of where it comes from, but to focus this effort on claiming what is ours here as Americans, which is the country that we are citizens of and where we pay our taxes.
Mr. Llewellyn, you prefer the term American.
Well, I guess in all of my years on this earth, I've been called about 5 or 6 different things. I've been called Black. I've been called Afro-American. Now we're talking about African American. I've been called Negro. I've been called colored. And what strikes me as a continuous theme or theorem in all of this is the fact that we never have been called full citizens of the United States of America. And what I'd like to see accomplished once and for all is that we are considered as full citizens and have all the rights and privileges there too. All I see is that people in Russia, people in Poland, people in Nicaragua are all packing their bags and heading for the United States of America, feeling it's some kind of panacea or a great place to be. And there must be something here that brings all these people. All I'm saying to you is that I think it's a disgrace that we have been here for well over 200 years and we have not enjoyed these full benefits that a lot of people have come here generation after generation and gotten. And I think that's the key. That's where we ought to go. I'll be very honest with you. If I had my druthers, I wouldn't be worrying so much about whether you call me African American or not. I would like very much to see throughout this country, as other groups have put in museums called Holocaust, to see slavery museums which would show are suffering our contribution over the years up until the year 1989 as to what we have done to give something to America. I think to try and leapfrog back and take youngsters in 1989 and tell them about our agrarian background in Africa is almost impossible at this point in time. The other problem with this is I listened to one gentleman on the thing say, well, during the campaign, we talked about Michael Dukakis as being a Greek American. Well, Greek American pinpoints a country called Greece. African American does not pinpoint any country. It is a continent. And therefore, either you're going to play a game called European American or African American, or otherwise, again, we still haven't been able to refine ourselves down to where we come from, whether we come from Nigeria or Kenya.
All right, well, let me just go to Mr. Toure here. In the 1960s, as I said before, you were one of the ardent proponents of using the term Black. How do you feel now about abandoning it in favor of African American?
Well, I do not even use the term African American. I use the term Africans because that's what we are. We're Africans in America. There's nothing American about us. Our history has only been a history of struggle in America. We are the only ethnic group in America who have to shed our blood to make reform. To get the vote, we must shed our blood. To get our children to school, we must shed our blood. To get on a bus and sit where we want, we must shed our blood. To even get in a filthy 5 and 10 cent store, we must shed our blood. So I don't see how we could be American. We're Africans in America struggling against American capitalism. And only until it's destroyed will we enjoy the rights that everyone else is speaking of.
Well, how do you respond to that, Mr. Llewellyn?
Well, what he's trying to do is to change the name of the game or change the rules. And I haven't got time to change the rules. I've got to look at what is. I guess I'm more practical about this. Maybe the ideal panacea is to change the rules and make it all a kind of a equal socialistic state. But in the meantime, let's talk about what is. This is a capitalistic society. We are here. We are paying our taxes. We are doing work each and every day. And I think we have the right to participate. We have sent people to war since the revolutionary times and spilled our blood for America, from Crispus Attucks and the Revolutionary War all the way down through this Vietnam. So therefore, I want to get.
Okay.
I would have rather let him finish a little sentence, but okay.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I actually thought he's been ranting for a while. My bad. Let him finish his piece before we go.
You can construe as my piece of the action like everybody else has gotten. And it really annoys me to see people who haven't made this kind of contribution over the years come here and feel that they can claim it and get it. And we have done that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone recognize this line of argumentation? Has anyone heard this before? Does this all sound familiar in 1989 to some things we're hearing in 2025?
Yeah, they just had the investments here. It was yesterday. Plastered all over all the messaging.
Yep. This is the ADOS FBA argument. He didn't claim the label, but this is their literal reasoning, like word for word.
I was thinking more of a class. I mean,
ADOS.
Yeah, because ADOS too, but I think the whole black capitalist rhetoric is, so you don't need to be an ADOS to be a Khalees. and Khalees is in Africa right now saying that she's so.
No, that's true. I think though, where I'm stuck with is like, why does ADOS FBA exist? Like, what they pull on the strain of black conservative thought. That's where I see their root coming from. It's a black conservative argument, essentially, about getting accepted to the empire and getting your contribution recognized by the people who enslaved you and have no incentive to recognize your contribution, right? That comes from, though, like his positionality as a business executive trying to get into American capitalism. That's why he's like, no, we're American. He's one step away, he feels, from being an American. So for him, this line of reasoning like makes the most sense. For the average black working class person, though, it doesn't. But they're still fed the same line. They still follow his arguments. I think the things that he pokes holes in about Africa, right, are valid. These are all questions that we kind of all have when it comes to relating to Africa. Well, where am I from in Africa? Blah, blah, blah. All of them can be answered with political education and history, right? But still, I know a bunch of people who would, without ever hearing J. Bruce Llewellyn, through the media, through their own reasoning, through dialectics, ask the same questions he just did here. And I think Kwame Ture makes it very clear in the opposite direction why African makes the most sense. And so this is the consciousness clash I'm seeing when I encounter people in the field who are trying to come up with a name that like respects and acknowledges our unique history in this empire, but also acknowledges that we're African. So I think that's interesting. I do, Amber, I appreciate that you let us finish, because he's again trying to revise history in a way that's not historical. So I mentioned last time about Horn's point that in the Revolutionary War, the majority of Africans sided with the British because they thought that would result in the abolition of slavery, right? Native Americans didn't want the American project expanding westward. So from that point of history, it makes sense to me. But this guy, someone trying to sell our people on the American dream, tells our history through this shit like Crispus Attucks. And using the minority of Africans who sided with America as his entryway into being American. And then he extends that all the way through Vietnam, which I think is crazy. So he's basically just team American imperialism. But I know a lot of our people would be seduced by that argument. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I also think the argument that he used about people from other countries coming here, and them like, immigrating here, is also the same argument I hear from folks who are like, when it comes to ICE and detention, they're only, going after certain classes of people. They're not arresting the Swedish or the Danish, like who immigrate here knowing that it's an easy place to immigrate. So I also feel like that's a flawed argument too, because you're naming the people who it's easy for them to immigrate here. They know that, like they know how to play the game, and they're not going to be targeted because they look white.
I know we shouldn't be responding to the chat, but Zindi, I don't know. I just want to answer this question. I want us to answer this question. This is a very old interview. I don't understand why we are discussing it. Is this man even still alive? Again, I know we shouldn't be looking in the chat, but I think to reiterate the purpose of this, Lord, you could share one.
Yeah, no, I appreciate using the chat to represent what we encounter when we do this.
I do think it's a valid thing for us to talk about, because we're literally, everything he's saying, we're seeing play out right now. Pretty much, like the things they're talking about are also very accurate for this current time. And something we've been talking about in my Black August Freedom School classes are that all the things that they're looking at are also very, very old, but they all are very present day. Like we were reading Message to the Grassroots, and they're like, this is extremely accurate to what's happening right now, because history continues to repeat itself. And even though he's not saying ADOS, that's exactly what he's describing. So I do think it's helpful to like talk through, although I already know how I feel about the terms African American, Black, or whatever. It's not a big deal to me. Like I didn't feel like the discussion was like a big deal, but I do think it's interesting to hear that people are still using the same talking points, and also shows that those talking points are flourishing.
Yep. This is my point about dialectics, and that we all do it. Like it's things that everyone does, even if they're aware of it or not. Like when you're trying to think through this, you're trying to understand where ideas come from. How do you know what you know? Why do you like what you like? You want to look historically. Right. So I do think there are more recent examples that we can look at. But my whole point, a lot of times, even with phrases, people will just think that when the phrase exists, that's when the idea came into being. Right. So even with this term African American, I'm sure there are other people throughout history who have pieced together African and American and boom, and done that. Right. So my point is that you want to study the origins of ideas, like where do they come from, and also their kind of core ideology. So to me, this is just like understanding Black conservative thinking more broadly, but then you can intellectually trace the genealogy of current ADOS arguments by looking at this guy. Even though he didn't call himself that, even though, like, why does your argument as an African in 2025 who calls yourself FBA or ADOS or something mirror this light-skinned, we're going to get into where he's from, by the way, but this light-skinned Black capitalist man trying to get into the American empire, trying to get recognized for his contributions to Vietnam. Because again, this becomes Colin Powell, right? Or Barack Obama in some ways. So that's why I think it's important looking at the past so we can take it and move forward. Sankofa. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I think measuring, and I think everything you said was spot on. I think what Musa said in the chat is also important. This interview may be old, but it is literally the exact same argument we're hearing today. People benefit from knowing conversations are not new and having lineage to observe. But so a couple of things.
Can I comment on what Musa said? I also just want to highlight that in the Black August Freedom School classes we're having right now, I have seen people in real time transforming their thoughts because they're realizing that these are old arguments that have consistently flourished. And if we don't change how we're organizing, like it's going to continue. So I do think it really is impactful for them because they're like, oh, these things are just continuing because none of us are saying, well, we finna have a revolution. Like we finna become revolutionary. We finna do what we need to do. Like none of them are doing that currently. So they're like, oh, this is how we combat those arguments. So I do think it's been helpful for them. And also remembering that most of the people on here may be politicized, but the people that I interact with every day are not. I'm talking about people from my church that are coming to these classes that don't come off like Black liberationists at all, that have literally transformed into movement niggas over a month period of time. And I just go to a regular Baptist church. Like, so people do need to hear these things and see these things because so many of them have never heard or seen these things ever before. Like it's all new playing field for them. Like we talked about, mass incarceration, militarization of police. None of them even knew that the SWAT team that we currently have originated in California to attack the Black Panthers. Like they are learning so much because we don't learn that stuff in regular history. So I do think it's very helpful for those people. For folks who are politicized, it's not that big of a deal for us, right? Like, I'm not super enthused about watching the video, but for them, they're like, oh, I've never seen this. This is changing my thinking. So I do think it is helpful for, certain folks.
Yeah, so I kind of forgot the one point that I was about to say, but Zenzi did acknowledge that that they stand corrected and acknowledge people off this platform as needing politicization, but I don't know if they are watching this or not. So I think for us, archiving and documentation and putting things out there is better than it not being out there. So if they're watching now and currently, rewatch later, or you can show them a video if you're having a conversation about it later. I think it's important to, again, pop our shit and put it out there as well. But also it's like there's a commitment. For people to have a commitment to the American project, it's on a spectrum, right? And so again, we can hyper focus on FBA or again the Earn Your Leisure's Black Capitalists, the cultural Amanda Seals. Like you can have like you can have a pointed conversation about each of them, but they all kind of like sit in the same spot. So there's Amos Wilson. One of the things that I developed, I guess, from studying Amos Wilson, it's like 4 responses to U.S. hegemony, right? All folks, and my bad, I was trying to pull this article. All folks, all African folks, indigenous people, non-white folks, and maybe even white folks. There's like 4 responses. The first response is like the homicidal response. People begin to devour each other instead of turn towards their aggressor. The suicidal response, which creates in careerisms and people instead, and even some spiritual practices to make you allow to stop trying to fight a system and just accept your death. And then the assimilationist, person who think they can close their proximity to whiteness and that will get them out of this situation, or the revolutionary or the radical person who directly wants to confront the primary source of frustration. And I think all of us kind of maybe even dwindle in between the two, but that's kind of how I see people when they're on the spectrum. So ADOS and NAACP and a lot of people will go in a particular thing, and that's just where they are. And I don't think they're separate from the other. They all kind of make the same argument. And so again, not only that, but they've been doing it, like the video show, since the 60s and the 40s and stuff. So.
Responsive?
Of course. In the first place, just because we're in the capitalist system doesn't mean we must love it. We were made slaves. It doesn't mean that while you're a slave, you must love slavery. A conscious slave, while picking cotton on the plantation, is thinking about how to escape, how to bring freedom. Therefore, just because we're in capitalism doesn't mean we must enjoy it. We have to fight for an equal society. That's our history. Our people show that we spill blood instinctively to advance humanity. And we have this responsibility to advance America, yes, to a socialist state.
You would seem to imply from your comment that capitalism is utterly inconsistent with Africa and Africans.
It is.
But I would posit that that's not true. If you look again at the nations of Africa, if you look at African people in every country of the world, especially in recent times, they essentially want things. They want products. They want the things that it's, at least up to this point, demonstrated that only capitalism, with its imperfections and with its inequities, which hopefully some people believe can still be tamed, people want things. And I don't somehow see a worldwide Pan-Africanism as also spelling the death knell for capitalism at the same time. It seems inconsistent. There are too many people who want cars in Lagos, Nigeria. Last time I checked, the traffic jams are horrendous.
I don't think we can solve that one right now, but let me just go back to Ramona Edelin, because both Mr. Winter and Mr. Llewellyn talked about how they don't think it's possible to leapfrog over a lot of history and go back. It's impossible to go back to the agrarian life, that you can't even pinpoint a place in Africa where Black people come from, if I'm paraphrasing your comments correctly. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, our culture and heritage in Africa entail far more than agrarian economies. Mathematics and science were born in Africa, philosophy and religion. And as well as that, we've been accomplished musicians and dancers for centuries. There's so much in our cultural heritage that we need to recoup right now, particularly for the children. And it is possible to leapfrog, as they put it. As a matter of fact, it's not only possible, it's necessary. Because if you begin with slavery, then you will still have children looking in your eyes as they do in mine, in our cities and in the streets, and saying, what difference does it really make to you, to me, or to anyone else, whether I live or die, whether I take drugs, whether I kill another person, whether I learn anything in school? We have a responsibility. And I think that one way we can have a cultural renaissance is to identify with the land base that gave us the wonderful things about our nature and our culture.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Well, that all sounds very nice and wonderful, but I invite you to take a look at Africa right now and today and look at the situation in Eritrea against Ethiopia and all the other things that have happened, Biafra with the Nigerians and what have you. That, in my opinion, is idealistic and not the gut of the problem. The gut of the problem is something called values. The gut of the problem is something called family. The gut of the problem is something called importance. What do we construe and believe to be important?
I would submit that without a cultural offensive, without our unifying at this particular time and saying what we believe in and who we are and how we will train our children and what our families mean to us, that we will continue to have those same gut issues. That's precisely the point. We will continue unless we develop a cultural vehicle which will move us forward. All groups move forward by strength of their culture. It is a myth that individuals move forward. And certainly we cannot accept 2 or 3 of our group emerging year after year while the vast masses of us continue to go down. We have a responsibility.
Let me raise a point back to you, Kwame Ture. When you launched this move that resulted in Black being adopted as the defining symbol for African American people, many people felt that it helped to purge them of all the negative feelings about themselves, that it really represented the first major psychological break. And you heard the woman in the tape talk about Black is beautiful. I mean, that was the most positive affirmation of Blackness by Black people. What do you say to people now who say you simply cannot abandon the term that came to symbolize so much for Black people?
Human progress does not stand still. It moves. We came here as Africans. One of the first organizations we had fighting for us is known as the Free African Society. The very first independent organization we had in this country was the church. It was known as the African Methodist Episcopalian Church. So from Africans, our oppressor has changed us to colored, to Negro, to this, to that. We understand it's a step. Coming to black had a powerful point, because the point was that we were oppressed because of this color of our skin, and this was racism. But this fight is not just a fight over the color of our skin. A fight for power is a fight for land. When Mr. Llewellyn speaks about power, he's talking about land. Our land is Africa. America is not our land. It belongs to the American Indians, and we have a right to stand and take a moral struggle with them. And we don't worry about people being for things. People want things is incorrect. The point is not to explain the world. The point is to change it. If the people want material things, then we have a responsibility to tell them that things more important than material things, like freedom.
Mr. Winter?
Well, I can't claim to have been there, indeed, when black was coined, because I was somewhat in high school and I was on the listening end as, indeed, you were doing the talking. But it's always been my feeling that black was more than the recognition of where our blood comes from. It has a lot to do with the experience of people of color in a larger sense under colonialism, whether it was external colonialism, let's say in the Caribbean, or the internal colonialism that we had to deal with here in the United States, rather than simply a statement of Africa. Because the fact is, we have become more than simply descendants of Africa. We have created a lot of what America is in our own image. When you talk about this cultural-based offensive, I would rather see us claim American culture, which is not European culture. America does not mean white. American doesn't mean white. It means a combination of European and African and Asian and the rest of the cultures of the whole world. This is what America is. And if it denies the fact of what is African within it, then it's up to us to continue to assert that no, America does not mean white. America means a melting and a combination of things.
Go ahead, Amber.
I just want to say, he was eating them niggas up. My girl came in real quick. She said, "Now wait a damn minute." I liked her. I still don't agree with African American, but I do think what she was saying made sense. But I also think that when I think of how we label things, we say black, like black culture, black, people, black food, like we don't say African. And I think that's because people are thinking of like ethnicity versus race. But I do think that black is the more popular used term in general, like, as an identifier, but not as a politic. Like when I think of a politic, people are like, yeah, I'm African. And I do think that is a separation between black. Like I think that's the signifier or the difference between someone saying like, I'm a black person versus someone like saying African, as in like what I believe, what my politics are. So I do think that's the thing that's missing from some of the stuff that they're saying, because they're being very specific about being in America. I don't think the ADOS argument is winning. I think that guy is losing. Someone in the chat said that Kwame Ture was holding his composure. I love how when people start talking, he leaned in. Like my boy listening. He said, "Nah, I'm ready. I got my comeback coming." I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think and I wanted to remember the sister's name who was talking about more African history.
Ramona Edelin.
What's that?
Ramona Edelin.
Edelin, yeah. So I believe Ramona and Torre at the way in which they're showing up in this conversation, one of them is like she is going into African history and ancient and historical knowledge. And I think he's coming from that, but making it applicable and thinking about material conditions. And I think so both are necessary. So the cultural thing is necessary, but it also has to have a material action and base. And so I think they're kind of having that conversation, because even as we kind of see that's highlighted in the aspiring black capitalists, like I don't think, well, it's obvious this person don't even understand, like, again, the impossibility of such a thing. So think about like real estate, right? So real estate, and we just had the 2008 crash. There's a projected one that's coming bigger and worse than that. In the 2008 crash, majority of black financially literate people lost resources. So using housing as an example, a basic human need in the fucking industry. making things that people like basically need a speculative spectacle. And like there's just really no way about it. Like even like the landlords, there won't be any renters. Like people won't be able to afford to be able to like rent. And so, and you as a black real estate person, you literally have to take out a loan from the bank, pay double, and then try to charge another black person with no money to pay for their rent and your mortgage. And then when both of y'all fall out, the banks get bailed out with the tax revenue. Your ass go back down, and then the other person with no house go down. Like it's just not even possible for the shit to work. And so when the black man said we want in on some of it, it really sounds like I heard Killer Mike on this interview said like slavery was bad, but we want in on some of it. And like, wait, what?
It's Killer Mike.
Yes. So it's like the same kind of thing. It's like I believe, and that's what I thought about like with Amos Wilson. There's this thing around hope, and he talked about, and I read it a couple times on this, but he talked about the Horatio Alger myth that like every victim of capitalism and imperialism, the ones that are not fighting back, they believe that one day they can make it, and it's possible. And so they have to believe in private property, and they have to have this particular hope. And every black leader that's put before them has a message of hope. So whether it be Jesse Jackson, Keep Hope Alive, or Obama campaign running off of hope, like it's necessary for so many black people to be weaponized into being emotionally connected to the American project. And again, as I said, it's expressed on a spectrum.
Yeah, I wanted to. I've mentioned your framework many times because I know it's coming from Amos Wilson and folks, but I appreciate it. Like what you said is just one of the 4 responses, right? Like homicidal, suicidal, assimilationist, or revolutionary. So you have to pick one, right? And like you said, people are usually picking combinations. So I appreciate this video for showing the spectrum of black political thought. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's just an assimilationist response. Versus a revolutionary response or suicidal response. I think to some degree it is suicidal because this empire is going to destroy the planet. So I say any assimilationist response is a suicidal response. But I do think there are differences. I really appreciate this interview, Amber, because like as you said, Ramona is presenting the best version, I think, of the African-American argument, and in good faith, and as somebody who's embedded in the community, actively has the good of the community at heart. I think Llewellyn and Leon Winter, to some degree, even in their confusion, still do speak like black conservatives, which is what I'm trying to point out. The blackness does play a role, right? Like Llewellyn is a conservative, but Trump is renaming military bases to Confederate, names and stuff like that. That's not something I expect a black conservative in that era who's more good faith like Llewellyn to do. Tim Scott and all these coons now, they'll do that. No question, right? But I think Llewellyn represents a black conservative thought that still somewhat tries to maintain control, bourgeois control of the community. He wants slavery museums. He wants our contribution met. Leon Winter, yeah, more professional managerial class, right? So he seems a little confused even, which is why every time I watch this, I lose my mind when he says internal colonialism about black people. I was just like, that must have been so in vogue in theory that I've heard Jesse Jackson say it. I've heard Leon, like black conservatives used to say internal colonialism, which is insane, right? But because that's not happening now as a framework.
So really quick, something, again, I'm appreciating how some of these conversations are like weaving back into each other. And so earlier when I asked that question about Amber, whenever they talk about you in public, do they connect you to an organization and say that you're doing this thing? And because a lot of times when you're in an organization, there's a tactical use for particular spaces, right? And so when Musa said that they're all there to argue and Kwame Ture is there to use the platform. So there's a political line that he has and an objective for that appearance. And that kind of brings me to a bar that I found in there. And I'm like, damn, I forgot about that. And now I need to clip that and use that. But when he said it's not to be explained, the world is not to be explained, but it's to be changed. right? It's not to say he don't have the analysis to explain it, because he obviously showed that. But to take that analysis and actually make it have material impact is what was happening. And again, to make material impact, you have to have social investigation and know where the fuck the people at. Like, is it, reading a bunch of shit and all the other stuff is cool. But
Yeah, I agree with the point that you're making, Yishi. I think that that's really what I try to do in most of my organizing. I think that the issue I see here a lot is people talk too fucking much. Actually, y'all should stop doing so many interviews, and you should only be doing things that work along a strategy. Like when I wrote out the campaign for the stuff we were doing for Tyree Nichols' family, it included certain media hits in a certain way where they said certain things. Other than that, I'm not talking to you. And I do think that part of the organizing issues I see a lot is that people are doing a lot of things for limelight or to like get some kind of credit or to, be acclaimed to fame as this person who, said this in this interview, trying to get a buzzword or like a viral clip. And that's why they aren't getting any wins. And I think we see it really clearly in elected officials. Like now that social media is so big, you got all these county commissioners. This week we had a county commission meeting where they were talking about building the new jail. This county commissioner, Brittany Thornton, literally said, yeah, because the community has been coming here, and looked directly into the camera and said, and we have to listen to them. Now, how did you know where the camera was? That's always my question. How do you know where the camera was? And that be pissing me off, because they are definitely using it for clip hits versus like actually doing the work that people have elected them for, which is why she's not gonna win again. But most of them not gonna win again. But yeah, I see it happen a lot here, and I would say in politics all over. Like in my group chats I'm in, they be showing stuff. I'd be like, yeah, they was doing that for the media. Like they was trying to be popular. I think the Nicole Collier thing is a good example. Like she stood her ground, like she should have. She shouldn't have signed herself into custody, but now that's catapulted her. When I found Nicole Collier on Instagram, she had 1,623 followers. That girl got like 70,000 now. Like it catapulted her on this huge radar. And I think at certain points, she was using the media hits she was getting to boost her profile. Like she realized after it took off, after the first day, she realized, oh, it's been taking off. I can't leave now. So she stayed. And I was like, yeah, that's a political thing to do.
Yeah, I think sometimes also, as well, that's what politicians do. But what I'm saying and what you're just saying, like that thing is equally true for people who's supposed to be organizers and in left spaces, whatever. It's like sometimes it is just performative, and people do know how to come out and look straight to the camera. Or I just think,
yeah.
This is a great example. What Sister Ashley Nichols said to Tamika Mallory during the George Floyd uprisings, because she took her ass to Louisville and cut the fuck up. She cut up in Louisville. I was there and I saw the way that they did stuff, all them press conferences they was doing. I was like, how is this getting us a win? How is this getting the policy change? How is this doing anything?
Yep. Someone already mentioned Kwame Ture had a relationship with the host. Like, I agree. One thing I did want to add to that is I think Ramona's not here to argue. I think Ramona's here seriously. And what I think is different, shameless plug, Black Men Build, we did our financial literacy workshop, or our Theory Thursday, our teaching. Jared was there, Erica was there. And we have this piece on Black conservative versus radical thought that's still been getting some pushback, where we talked about Booker T. Washington versus Hubert Harrison as an example. But I think we're really getting into, again, that Black conservative psyche here. So I think what's interesting about Ramona and Kwame Ture is that they are there representing organizations, even though they disagree. And I would be more interested in a dialogue between those two than all of this. They are there trying to promote something for you to join in your community and get to work. So either it's the National Urban League or the AAPRP, roads lead back to them. For Leon Winter and Llewellyn, as a Black person hearing their thoughts and agreeing, what can you even do? Right? I guess you could go work at his Coke factory, or you can try and get a job at the Wall Street Journal. You know what I mean? But the institution they represent, Wall Street Journal, Coca-Cola versus National Urban League, AAPRP, right? This is why I also think radicals and conservatives should not be compared in that way, right? One is trying to get you into movement, doing things yourself, and the other is trying to make you like them, model them, assimilate like them. So
I also agree that Mona was not there to play or argue. And I also maybe too would like to see them in conversation. And I would probably more so say in terms of them not agreeing, then they're talking to two different audiences, but there's a connection in what they're talking about, and maybe they don't know that, or maybe But I probably wouldn't say necessarily disagree. They would feel like they disagree, but objectively, us looking at it, I think we could see where they're coming from.
Yeah,
I agree. And someone in the chat said something about there should be a book about revolutionaries and their relationships. I do think that's also a part of it. Like the people that I'm talking to or that I write articles for, I have relationships with too. And you have to build those relationships to make sure that like they know you're not fucking playing. You can't twist my words or do too much. Like I think that matters. Somebody put this comment in here, which to most people might not be a big deal, but to me it matters. This guy said influencers can make up to $8K a month if they promote certain political views. That is not true. And I know that they're talking about this Wire article that came out this week. That Taylor Lorenz lady is a fucking liar. And people have been posting like intimate details of what she's talking about to show that she's lying. But also, most importantly, she's putting Black women in danger. There are people threatening my friend Elizabeth. Like it's creating a whole thing about something that's not true. And I think it's really dangerous to spread misinformation. And no matter how many folks have made videos combating her misinformation, saying that this is not true, the article is still up. And Wired has since like made an update to try to fix some of the issues. But she definitely is lying. And you got to stop listening to white women. That lady be lying a lot. And it's really dangerous because that really puts folks in danger who are like trying to dox Elizabeth and other folks. The main people who she names are only Black women. Like the white people that are in it, they really didn't name them. And they weren't being paid to talk about certain political views. They were being paid a stipend for going to trainings. And actually, I would love to get paid $8K a month to go to trainings once a week. Shit. I said, somebody was like, you got any questions? I said, my question is, how do I join? Because I too want $8K a month.
Well, I saw something in the chat a little bit earlier about this. I haven't done my full investigation. I was seeing some people who were pushing back with about the misinformation, some Black content creators. I do know white people are listed, like David Pakman, who, I mean, he didn't need Democratic money. He was doing the job for free. But I do, I want to put a pin in that, Amber. I want us to revisit it because somebody asked about you.
Go back to the video. I just saw that and I just thought it was, I don't think we should leave misinformation, out in the wind. But I think people in the chat are taking care of it too. I just think that when there's a chance to correct something, I want to correct it.
Yeah, no, I think it's especially because you're in that space. We should revisit the article, go through it, and analyze. Because again, like this idea, it's also not new, right? The Democrats, the last election, the previous election cycle, they pay influencers. It's been very, very
That's why
So
and then I also
other folks are getting paid by PACs, so not necessarily the political party because they're getting paid by a PAC, which is different. And she's been paid by PACs that were not affiliated with Democratic parties. Like her and I got paid from the same reproductive justice PAC. Like I too have been paid to make sponsored videos, but the chorus thing wasn't sponsored videos. It was about trainings. They actually weren't paid to make any videos. So I'd be like, is it really a big deal as much as people make it?
So really quickly, this almost sounds well, I'll say this makes me think of and I guess when people talk about like COINTELPRO, right? And we're like, oh, COINTELPRO was doing this thing. And then they read history and now they say today, so-and-so is COINTELPRO. This person being paid. And all I'm saying is it don't matter if you're being paid or not. It's the thing that you're saying. So you don't to make it plain, COINTELPRO wouldn't even have to waste their budget money at this point. Political people are so politically confused that they don't need to be paid to whether they're influenced or not. So I think it's less about the influencer part or the being paid, because yes, as Musa was saying and as Lord was saying, influencers make even more money than that. And the interesting thing about money transfer, it doesn't necessarily mean you're being paid for that, but like they pay for your training, technically you're still being paid to do a thing. And again, like I think this is why political science is from an African lens is so important. Is like when you look and interact with power relations, you can kind of see on a high level how people can be manipulated and ushered into a decision, and they think they're independent or whatever else they might say.
Yeah, which is why I like when people disclose like that something is sponsored or ad or whatever, because people will believe it if they're just talking generally. And yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah. So we'll definitely come back to this story. Now we're a little over 10, so we're going to close this out. And
that's the point. We are saying African and American, and not everyone is willing to say American, and not everyone is willing to say African. But the point is, we are trying to merge the two, and American society at this point in time does exclude the African reality. America is an African as well as a European invention.
Well,
we know that, but it isn't accepted widely as now.
Let me ask you this, Ms. Eland. What is wrong? Hakeem Madabuti said a few moments ago that in his writing and everything, he's going to use both. I mean, is there a problem with using African American for those who choose to, and for those who choose to use black, to use black?
No, I think we all will use both to a certain extent. First of all, it's going to be hard to break old habits that were very dear to us, and I certainly was along with Stokely in the days when the name was changed. But it is important to continue to draw the consciousness of our people to a set of values which were positive and productive for us. To call our mother's name is Africa. We are children without her if we leave that out, and I think that it's fair to say no one of us is satisfied with the status quo today.
Well, it seems that Time Magazine, in fact, has a piece on this week, and it says that for more than a century, descendants of freedmen have debated what name they should bear as a people, and in every instance, the shift in the change of appellation coincided with a new phase in the struggle for equality. Is that what's going on now, in your view? And what stage is this?
Yes, and I think this is a point of evolution in our culture. And it's the stage right before we cross the threshold to the 21st century. I think we are saying that there's a quickening of our will. We will not cross the threshold of the 21st century in the condition that we are today.
All right, let me ask Mr. Winter, what do you think about that?
I don't necessarily see this as a quickening, if you will, in that kind of direction. It seems to me that a move like this is an attempt more at a rhetorical assertion to sort of put a new name on things. But I don't see where it quite takes us to getting a better handle on what is immediately in front of us.
Maybe I should say, Charlene, that the cultural offensive is going to entail agenda setting, goal setting, working together to achieve our purposes. As you well know, Charlene, in the movement years, when you decided to desegregate the University of Georgia along with Ham, we were unified around your decision. We were purposeful. We were powerful. There was a sense of destiny, and we achieved our goals. What we are so sadly lacking now is any sense of purpose or destiny. We are not setting agendas. We are not working together, though we're working very hard.
But is that because we don't have the right name?
Well, the name change is the first step in what we hope will be a self-conscious examination of our culture, going back to our ancient as well as our contemporary strengths, and pulling together a vehicle which will be more useful to us than the one that we are now engaged in. If anyone is satisfied with the status quo, I'm not aware of it, particularly our children.
Mr. Llewellyn, just very briefly, do you see this as a critical stage in the evolution of?
I swear, I do not know why people keep talking about what the container is called. It's what's the content of the container. This won't get us into the 21st century unless our kids can read, write, compute, and be able to compete in this country to make a living and to make progress. If that doesn't take place, we can put African American on them, we can put Negro on them, we can put anything you want to put on them, but they're not going to play the game in the 21st century because the field is getting tougher and tougher, and this not a level field.
Bruce says you know.
Wait, just a minute. Let me just we're about to run out of time. Mr. Ture, a final comment on that point.
The error of the thinking here is that most people think that Africans in America came here just like other immigrant groups did. All other immigrants came to America expecting a better way of life. We started in hell, which was a slave ship, and we're still in hell. This incorrect assumption makes it appear as if we've made a contribution with our culture. Our culture has been trampled upon, not the others. Any contribution we've made to America is the test of the strength of our culture in spite of this oppression. We are Africans, and that's exactly where we're going.
Is the term, in your view, is that where you end it? Is that where it stops?
The content was African. The label has been changed to confuse us. If we came as Africans, how do we end up as Americans? How do we end up as...
I would beg to differ here that my ancestors came here in a slave boat. They didn't. They came from the island of Jamaica, and they came on their own because they thought it was a better place to be than Jamaica.
They came as slaves to Jamaica. I was born in Trinidad. That's where the slave ship dropped them. We're all slaves. Right. We're all slaves.
We can't solve this one.
Jamaica, or who did you decide to drop in Jamaica? The white man dropped you in Jamaica and brought you to Mississippi. Right. So you.
So, first of all.
Wait, you gotta finish. You gotta finish the line. Hold up.
Okay.
You don't define yourself by the enemy?
No, I define myself as the fighting places where I'm at, where I used to be, or where I thought I was.
So if you were fighting on a slave ship, we fought on the slave ships. Did you call yourself a water?
And you're still fighting in 1989, right here in New York City.
Until Africa is free, we won't be free.
All right, one final practical note.
Period.
Damn, where's the bars drop?
So listen, so he said it's in Jamaica, right?
Now listen, that's called my boy. You know nothing about that.
Jamaica. So speaking for my people around that water. So again, Jamaica, you get dropped off, right, Jay? You get dropped off, right, Jay? You get dropped off, right, Jay? And for some reason, I'm gonna be Gullah, and you're gonna be Jamaican. Well, even America, I know Gullah's trying to reach back, but you're gonna be Jamaican and Bahamas and all this other stuff. And so a couple of days ago, we did our second tenants meeting for some elders here at one of the private-owned private real estate companies. And again, this place is terrorizing these seniors, and we're facilitating this second meeting to get them organized. Both meetings had the management kind of like run to like fix things while complaining and whatever. And even the last meeting, like HUD was walking around with the manager, and the manager flipped script, turned to an apologetic, interesting person. But in this space, I was talking to these elders, and one of the elders, I can hear her speak, and I'm like, yo, you from Ghana? She said, no, Sierra Leone. I said, oh, we from Sierra Leone too. She said, huh? And I was like, yeah, have you heard of Gullah people? She said, oh no, I haven't heard. I said, well, Gullah people were specifically captured from Angola, Gullah, and then Sierra Leone. And then like we came, some of us came back to help establish Freetown. She was like, oh yeah, like some from America and Europe and whatever, because there was a bunch of Africans who were captured from that space, went there, and then they came back, and that's how Freetown was established. And so anyway, I think that conversation is like, yeah, like we're grappling with, Gullah, African, whatever, but the reality is we all in this space where we're being terrorized by corporate real estate companies, and we can't afford to have housing security. So whether you African, Chinese, color, whatever the fuck it is, like you in this senior space right here now, we need to be organized because all of us gonna die unhoused. So yeah, I just think that made me think of like that conversation. And I feel like that's what Kwame Ture is trying to kind of grapple with. Like, yes, we could talk about what you call yourselves and who you whatever, but like this right here today, we're in a particular condition that both of us, if you're not identifying me, need to be fighting this one thing.
I'll add, I just think the Jamaica thing, the revelation at the end, it's so perfect because he's giving a conservative, like ADOS FBA argument, and they would call him a tether. Like, that's the funniest part of all of this. Like you said, Geechee, no matter where you are in the diaspora, or if you're colonized in general, or even poor white workers, whatever, you're fighting Wall Street imperialism, like through and through. And so the logic, the assimilationist response, whether you're from Jamaica or Haiti or Kenya or whatever, still looks the same. So it's just very funny that he's spinning this American dream thing. He's saying the same rhetoric about our contributions, even though some people would fight him and say, well, you were in Jamaica or my ancestors were in Georgia, da, da, da. And even though it's possible that his light-skinnedness, his Jamaican heritage and immigrant background with maybe more skills than folks, all of that probably did play a role into his class position. But the argument itself is still the same conservative ADOS assimilationist style argument. So thought that was powerful.
And it tastes like flat soda.
It sure do.
So somebody asked in the book, and I can read the small passage again, but it's Amos Wilson, Psychology of Self-Hatred and Defeat. And again, like the passage was again talking about like people who are dominated by white nationalists, white US imperialism, whatever. And he was saying how particular black folks, but black and brown folks, whatever you call yourself, the American project is something that they force you through the gun or through education or whatever other media to have some type of faith in, right? And so, and I'm gonna skip around a little bit, but they're saying that these people, you know, have been their brains been falsified with a Horatio algorithm. So they say they have been given Horatio algorithm where the poor boy from the cabins rise up to be a great rich man one day. This is a great functional myth. They like to protect this kind of myth because before us, oh, a poor boy made good, because when they do that, they convince millions of potential revolutionary people that if they hang on, be good, and keep their nose clean, they will be the big guy one day. When you get millions of people believing that they will support a system that exploits them, you've got to make them believe in private property, that some person actually has the right to consume all of the wealth, while other people around them die, and that the only thing you have right to do is go to the army and die to protect their interests. How is it that writing your name on a piece of paper, calling one man a mayor and another person a governor, and calling this a contract, all of a sudden give you the rights to the wealth of this land? And then he says, you've got to believe it. It's like the kind of mythic illusion that must be projected in the minds of hundreds of thousands of people in order that they starve to death while other people consume all of their wealth and eat them up, kill them, crush them, and push them down with armies and police forces. And of course, as soon as some revolutionary comes up and say, hey, these people don't have the right to all this money. God didn't give them the oil that has been under the earth for millions and billions of years. How is it that the oil has been preserved just for the Rockefellers or some Ab sheik? And then it goes down to as well, when I get rich, this is the people saying, well, when I get rich one day, I don't want anybody coming to say I have to give up all my wealth, to everyone. So therefore, I'm going to preserve the rich because I'm looking forward to the day when I'm going to get there. But Amos was saying very few of us will ever get there. That's why a politician will say, give them hope. Give the people hope. Don't give them any food, money, or housing. Just give the people hope. It's because they know when people ultimately give up hope, they get revolutionary. They start destroying things and changing things. So what do? You give them a little hope. As long as they have a little hope, and as long as you keep pushing heaven and some class of society somewhere in the future, you can eat them alive. We saw it in the 60s. Give them a few crumbs, hand out a few anti-poverty programs, give the people hope. When we riot in the summer, what happens? Give a little hope, make a few minority appointments, elect a few more black mayors, put up some window dressings. They'll have hope, and you will cool them down for another 20 years. 20 years later, they'll riot again. Black nationalists will rise up again, talking about what a devil the white man is. the black bourgeois leadership will threaten the powers that be by saying, "You better give them a little dough, man, or else we're going to turn the black revolutionaries loose on you." Then we'll cooperate with the ruling whites to keep off the revolutionaries, do them in, and then they'll cool them off for another 20 years. So that kind of made me think about laundering black rage. But again, that this tricking or forcing to get black people in their spectrum to commit to the American project is a thing for me.
I think what you said is exactly what we've been talking about in the class that I'm teaching. It's like, this is a continued history, right? Like they, do some stuff, give some people a little power, then it goes back. Like the Reconstruction period, like that was a huge, like black folks getting in power. Then they was like, now we were voting after that. Then they get some more black people in power. The Ku Klux Klan pops off. Then we see the whole, Black Power movement popping off. Then they're like, okay, we need to jail those folks and then kill some of them so we can settle things out a little bit. And now you're kind of seeing that happen right now. And Dante had a great comment about what I've been talking about in the class also. He said, Black August Resolution is revolutionary audaciousness. And that's what I've been talking about. Like, when are we going to be bold? When are folks going to, my bad, it's a white man in my backyard fixing something, y'all. He mad as a motherfucker. Anyways, like when are people going to have the courage? That's like the consistent thing I've been talking about is having courage, the courage to be like, okay, this is not the future that we want. And like, this is not what we believe in. And we're going to like stand up against that. And people continue to be like, yeah, we should do that, but nobody takes action. And so I also too hope that we'll have revolutionary audaciousness because these motherfuckers ain't got it right now.
Yep, I know we're coming up, but we still have a little bit of stuff to go over. Are y'all good to go to 10:30? Just 10 more minutes and then we close out?
I'm cool with that. I did post something in the comments, but just want to bring up the Sierra person. I think that you should go to Elizabeth's page because she's posted about the genocide probably in 10 different videos since 2023. And this is also why misinformation is so dangerous. I think misinformation is the most dangerous thing we have right now because people can say something on the internet one time and y'all all believe it. When that girl been talking about the genocide that's happening in Palestine for almost 3 years now.
I'm sorry, I'm a little lost. Are you referencing the Taylor story still? There's someone in the comments.
No, someone in the comments said that Elizabeth Booker, she's Booker Sweat on Instagram, supports the genocide and supports Democrats who support genocide. And that's not true. Like she has actually called it out multiple times. She's interviewed people and said, why aren't you saying anything about the genocide? So I think that it's not fair to say that, she supports something that she definitely is against. And that's why I was saying misinformation spreads like wildfire because I've seen that over the last 2 days over and over again, even though this girl been making these videos about the genocide since 2023, since November 2023. So right as the shit was popping off. Yeah. And I know that people have a general distrust of like political parties and all that stuff, but what I don't think is fair to attribute something to someone that they have definitely not said or definitely not done. Because I too push back against the Democratic Party often. And people will say, well, Amber's a dim establishment person. I was like, I'm not, because I talk about how I don't like them all the time.
Yeah.
Be patient with yourself. I was just saying, be patient with yourself and be patient with each other. We all on the political journey.
For revolutionary audaciousness?
For that, yeah, absolutely. To what you were saying earlier, Geet, you think people want the book one more time? The title of the book?
Yeah, so it's the psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat towards reclaiming of an African mind by Amos Wilson and Baba Sababu. Always transcribe a lot of it. So Amos had a bunch of lectures that Baba transcribed into actual books, and this actually came out like 2019. So this is like one of his many posthumous published books.
Say it one more time. I'm going to put it in the chat.
The psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat towards reclaiming an African mind, or reclaiming of the African mind, by Amos N. Wilson.
Thank you, Amber.
Right, but I was self-hatred and self-retreat.
Self-defeat.
Self what?
The psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat.
Jigen's got it in the chat.
Like defeat.
Yeah.
The foot.
Child, I said, what is that?
Self-defeat. Yeah.
But I do love when people transcribe lectures into books, so I'm gonna look it up too.
Yep. Shout out Walter Rodney Speaks, another good one. The other thing I was just bringing up with this video is the long view of our history and of our struggle and how that's removed. So the way that conservatives like Llewellyn and Winter are able to get off so many sayings is they can just say bullshit, right? Unfact checked. And it sounds familiar because the white corporate media apparatus is telling you that's the truth. That's what's in the textbooks. That's what's in the news, all of those things. I do want to say that dialectically, right, things are changing. Some things are staying consistent. Some things we can go back to, but some things are different. So I do think the narrative is different in some ways, and we have to acknowledge that. So the liberal narrative that I think Winter and some of the folks in this video are struggling with is this shift to a nation of immigrants narrative. And Du Bois has this really interesting statistic that like the start of the 20th century, I think 90% of Black people in the US were descended from the enslaved people brought here, whereas it was going down to only like 60% of Europeans and even lower, right? Because of the fact that they had to bring in so many other Europeans to become new settlers and to integrate into the American empire. So I think about that a lot with the long view too, which is that this shift in conceiving of yourself in America, where Kwame Ture is like, we can't compare ourselves to other immigrant groups. It comes from this shift in America going from this history of like, they used to love talking about settlers and being pioneers and the pilgrims and all of that. And in the rise of decolonization, in the rise of the 20th century communism, socialism, all those things, they have to shift that narrative. And so now I'm seeing that liberal nation of immigrants thing more often. So I don't think people have the same consciousness as before, where they were like, well, fuck the pilgrims. You know, America still does, the right wing especially still loves to claim Columbus and the pilgrims and their settler heritage and all of that. But the liberal ruling wing has kind of shifted into this nation of immigrants narrative that has all Black people kind of trying to compare ourselves and think of ourselves historically like Asian Americans or Jewish Americans or any other immigrant group. You know what I mean?
Yisha, they want to check on you in the comments. They said you always at a new location. Are you on the run? You okay?
So I will say this. When you ask a question, right? You know, so y'all probably saw this all the time, and this is me at house, and then sometimes I'm at the studio. But I think I'm always annoyed, and I'm not joking, but I'm always annoyed how people ask assumptive questions, and it always is backed by whatever they got going on. So they be like, Geechee, what is it? Yeah, Geechee broadcast at a different location, blah, blah, blah. You on the run? Or it could be, I could be house insecure, and I could just be trying to get Wi-Fi, right? I could be have a sick relative that I got to go visit every so often. So, but it's like the question and then really the assumption. And I know it's a joke, but that's
no, that's a good care.
And we know that we can't do no more jokes for Geechee, y'all. So I just need y'all to.
All I'm telling you is I understand, I recognize the joke, but I'm just caveating. Like, what if you were joking and there was something that was really going on?
Yeah. I think the best jokes are delivered with care, and I think that's why the right sucks with comedy. Like they suck ass at it, and that's why every man is losing it that they can't say anti-trans, anti-women jokes in this era. But I do think you can deliver comedy with care, and the funniest comedy is punching up, because this damn empire got a lot of fucking release the files. I'm loving release the files right now, by the way. It's getting white people mad. It's getting everybody mad. There's too many photos out there. Everyone's got a photo.
They super upset.
Release the file.
The lady then got moved to a different prison, child. I said, "Oh Lord, this is going insane." And also, I don't pay attention to white politician or like white political drama, so I didn't even see none of that stuff until recently, and didn't even know it's like a whole thing, like little indivisible groups holding protests. I said, "Oh my God, y'all are really upset about this."
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of comedy.
That's what happens when you organize for Black people. So I don't be knowing what the other people doing.
A lot of punching up to do.
Someone else in the chat asked what y'all was doing this weekend, and so I wanted to see what y'all were doing since it's a holiday weekend.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what everyone's got going on in the
You go
field.
first, Lord.
Cool. Yeah, I'll close this out. Peace, y'all. Tonight, if you're in South Florida, specifically Broward County, Black Men Build Miami is airing the Pendleton 2, They Stood Up. We also have our mass call and previous Theory Thursdays on our YouTube channel to go check out. But last night we had 2 Black, Brother Kinetic and Baba Jamal Joseph. So mass call, check that out. Tonight in Broward County, Black Men Build Miami showing defense of the Pendleton 2. So the Pendleton 2, They Stood Up documentary. On Saturday, I will be working with Delta Sigma Theta, some organizing 101, shout out. And on Sunday,
you with the Reds.
You know, that's my, come on, that's my mom. And on Sunday,
your
we
mom's
have
a Delta. That's so
mom,
cute.
aunts. I got people, organizer in Miami. Deltas are here. They ain't doing it in DST. They're doing it in outside revolutionary formations. But yeah. Shout out to Deltas. And then on Sunday, we have our membership ceremonies. So this is to recommit old members and also get new members in this organizing ecosystem in South Florida in this struggle. So that's what I got going on. Appreciate y'all for having me on.
No, we appreciate you. You know, you always offer a unique political discourse perspective that we all need. So I appreciate it because I, for one, love looking at videos and dissecting them and having discussions. Articles too, because I usually do it at home with myself. So I like doing it in a bigger group. I'll go next then, I guess, since you ain't saying nothing. So today is our last Black August Freedom School class. I'm so glad it's over. This is a lot. I think I was wearing the stress very well, but it was actually quite a lot to host classes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. teaching the people. But it's been great. I definitely have noticed like a lot of growth in folks, and they still want to do more political education stuff. They really want to be more politicized. So that's been really cool. I am going to trolley night tonight. It's like a thing they do every few months here on the trolley line. Like all the businesses have free shit. Going to a little party for that. And then I'm moderating a panel tomorrow for some conference thing. Talking to some elected officials. We're doing like this accountability thing to ask them about the stuff they ran about. So basically drilling them about the stuff they haven't done. I can't wait. I'm going to really have a great time with that. Then I'm going to Nashville because one of my really good friends is getting married on Sunday. Love that for her. Really excited. And then Monday is 901 day. So this is the first time that Labor Day has fell on 901 day as well. And 901 is just the area code for Memphis, but it's like a big thing. You know, like the 615 day and like the other stuff has become like really, really big in these different cities. So there's like a whole block party, like a music festival. There's like a younger crowd that's doing some stuff called Tapped In 901 that I'm going to go to. And then I'm going to a day party and I'm getting an award. So that's going to be fun. And then I got to go back to work on Tuesday. So yeah.
Get you what you got.
Rao asked if I'm going to hang out with Bat while I'm there. I'm not. I'm going to be in the streets and partying when I'm in Nashville.
That might be in the streets with you. Come on.
They don't know the people I know, so I doubt they're gonna be at the wedding. But yeah, I'll be turning up at the wedding, and then I got to go back to Memphis for 901 day. And Born Liberated, definitely Professor Amber. I'm definitely gonna start telling people to call me that.
Professor Amber. What do you teach, Professor Amber? What is your course?
I created an entire curriculum for Black August that literally focused on the origins of Black August and grew people's political analysis over time. I made sure that every class connected to the previous class, all the way up to our last class today, where we're going to talk about Black radical imagination. So now that I politicized them and gotten them to open their eyes, now they're going to be able to imagine what we can see for Black folks. It's going to be great. And I spent like 4 months making this curriculum. So very much a professor.
The people's professor. Appreciate that.
I appreciate that, Lorik.
So this weekend for fun, there's the what they call it, the Super Bowl of house music. So there's a whole lot of house events that will be happening this weekend. I'll be doing some of those things. I do have a couple meetings I have a meeting. I'm taking some of the elders who we're identified as the leaders to lead the tenants fight, taking them out to eat and kind of talk exclusively with those folks. And then I'm prepping for, we're having that putting liberated zone theories to practice in a men's group next Tuesday we'll having that. So I'll be kind of prepping for that, and I think that's it pretty much. And then reading. I'm into these 2 books. Matter of fact, Lord, I'm gonna reach out to you because we're bringing Jennifer Black to Atlanta, and it's a very interesting style of event that we're developing. But I'm gonna be reading their book, and then more of Brian's book because Brian is coming at the end of the month. Brian Cole.
Dope.
I do want to just answer a quick question. Sister Ashley Knuckles asked if I would consider doing a recap and lessons learned on the class on BLM. I'm down to do that in a few Fridays. And then the class is annually for someone else who asked. This is our 2nd year doing it. Last year, we only did it for 2 weeks, for 2 days out of the week. And the people were asking us to do more. They really wanted to be in the class more and learn more topics and stuff. So this year we did 4 weeks, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And next year, we're probably going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday again. And at least I have more time to prep for a longer month of classes. So I think it's worth it. And we're actually still going to be doing 2 PE classes out of the month, leading up to Black August next year, because the people who are doing the cohort really want to continue it. So I'm going to take some time to plan out some more stuff. I'll probably hit up Lorik and Geechee to ask some questions too, but plan out some more PEs for them. Also, Geechee, shout out to Geechee. He gave me a book that I could not find. So my boss at my job actually knows Walter Rodney's wife and was on WhatsApp talking to her because my boss at my job is Jamaican. So all the Caribbeans in the same group chat. She was talking to her and she could not find it. They were it was put in a book or something. And Geechee got me the book. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Mama Pat here in Atlanta.
Yeah, Dr. Patricia. One more thing for fun. If you're in Miami, Charles Lee Park, we're opening up a skating rink. Our brother comrade Kelvin will be a part of that. They're doing skating workshops. That's all tomorrow. I'm gonna learn how to skate backwards. So if you wanna, that was the last thing in my roll. Yeah, that's the last lesson for me. So I'm gonna learn.
You gotta go ahead and take your braids down for the classes, friend.
I don't be doing no skating.
What? Anyway, all right, y'all. Thank you so much.
For someone in the chat who asked they're recorded, they are recorded and they are on the Google Drive. So we put the Google Drive on the description a few weeks ago. If you click on that in the Google Drive, it says class recordings, and all of them are recorded except for the first 2 because I forgot. Sorry, but the rest of them are there. It's 10 or 12 classes.
Gotcha.
Somebody, my favorite capitalist in the chat said, "Make BLM pay you." I know that's right.
All right, y'all. Appreciate you.
Peace, y'all.
Peace, everyone. If you're willing to fight for it, as Jared and Fred Hampton always said.
Hell yeah.
Staggering, the gathering, possessed by a pattern that be scattering. Over the global, my vocals be traveling, unraveling, my abdomen is slime is babbling, grammatics that are masculine, I grab them in, verbally badgering broads, I wish them at them. Was back on video LP, I went against all odds, I got it even Steven. Proceeded reading, I believe in everything I'm reading, but my brain was bleak, needing beat and exercise. I didn't seek the best of odds, this a lot of text and lies.